It'd help if I had the clip lined up to play, wouldn't it?
It's in! Campbell comes off the bench to be a hero! A superhero! Breakthrough! It's taken a while, but it's been worth the wait for Cardiff City!
I never get bored of seeing that goal side, I tell you. I can't hear you. I can hear you now.
Hi, guys. I am Si, and welcome to the Andy Campbell Championship Show, only on ACEcast Nation. Episode number 31. And the 154th episode overall for the Ace Podcast Nation channel. Welcome, people. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and alike. We'll be joined by Mr. Andy Campbell, who you just heard a second ago, feeling a bit tender and hungover, I think, from yesterday's Sunday dinner. And welcome everybody. And if you could drop a thumbs up on the video and a like and share it with people, let them know that we are live and about to talk football. We're going to talk some championship, obviously break down all the games, but before that we'll talk any other business where we'll discuss various topics from the footballing world. Talk about the Manchester derby. We're going to talk about VAR again. We're going to talk about these warnings about fan behaviour during games, but that might come up in the championship stuff, which is getting a bit beyond a joke. Just while we wait for a few more people to join us on Facebook and YouTube, and before I introduce the man himself, this week we've got loads of new shows again. Tomorrow I'm recording a new episode of My Story with former world champion boxer Robbie Regan. So if you've got any questions or any stories that you'd like to hear in particular from the legend, the champ, then you need to get them over to me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram as soon as possible. Got another episode of that with Reese Weston coming up and various all things. I had an episode with stand-up comedian and MMA medic Ballistic Barry Phillips, which came out last Friday, which was very, very entertaining. It was so entertaining and so much fun that I'm desperately trying to work out a way that I can get Barry on the shows like on a regular basis, because he's a very entertaining guy and he's doing numbers, which is good, always good. As usual, we'll have lots more shows this week on various subjects. Danny Batten MMA show. We'll have I think we've got a wrestling show. We've got a show with former Merthyr councillor Adam Brown. And well, without further ado, let's talk some football. Let's meet the man himself, the Sunday drinking king, the hungover daddy soon to be, Cardiff City legend, king of the second worst town in the UK, speed demon, master of the toe poke, David Jones's favourite son, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good evening, my mate. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, a little bit tired, but yeah.
Yes, I'm like on edge. I am, because I'm normally so organised, but I had the parents' evening this evening before I came and do the show, so I haven't got like all my usual notes and stuff. So I got to do it.
Have we got any live news? Have we got
free.
any live update news on the parents' evening?
Yeah, it was really good.
Good,
very good. He's lined up. They want him to do like both the computer subjects for his choices, and if he puts the work in, he's capable of getting an A star, is what this computer teacher said. I was like,
buzzing.
Here we go.
Buzzing.
Mr. Jones is in the hizzy.
I know, he's in. He's in.
Oh, look. Mr. David's returned for more. Johnny Wish. We're all filling up nicely. I think this like later time might suit people a bit more. But yeah, drop some comments in the boxes, peeps. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Tell us what you agree with, what you don't agree with. The only interactive live football podcast in the UK, I am led to believe. So there we go.
Ooh, like that.
Growing all the time.
Yep.
Nearly did just under 5,000 views last week's show did, which was I was really pleased with. And I reckon it was because of Gethin and just the Jack Winter. Don't think it was anything to do with me and you, mate.
No, nothing.
It was the guests.
To do with us. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see this week when it's 0.
Yeah, well, that's it. It was when people realise there's no guests coming this week, and it's not like a weekly thing. But it's all right. Or will they? Or will there? Because you never know. You never know who might join us. Not today, but there will be some people coming along the way over there, especially in the summer. I think when the Euros start and it becomes the Andy Campbell Euros show. But I really should ask you when your holiday is, so we can work out. But no, you're not allowed to have a holiday. You've got to
sort it out.
Through it.
Yeah, well, yeah. We'll
work through it. You don't deserve a holiday.
We battle on. The good thing about the internet is that you can do it anywhere you are. So it's a good thing about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
On the move.
I can always just draft in Gethin or Alan just said I should dye my beard, mate. I want it the greyer the better.
There you go.
The greyer the better.
Greyer the better. He was telling me about his meeting earlier. He just put something on there like Awayday Apparel going looking good with some pictures he sent me earlier on and some amazing stuff in the future coming up. So watch this space. I think watch this space,
and I think that's a good little time to say that you should check out Awayday Apparel, awaydayapparel.co.uk. Check them out on Twitter at Awayday Apparel and Instagram at Awayday_apparel. And you can check out all their latest offers and designs and new clobber. There's some stuff coming up for the Euros, which is going to be really good, really popular. So get your stuff in now. And if you use the code AA Podcast Nation, all in lowercase, you get 10% off all orders when you enter that code at the checkout. It's AA Podcast Nation, and that's exclusively for Ace Podcast Nation viewers and listeners. And we thank them and Alan for sponsoring the show as usual. Yeah. He's a big supporter and a big help to us. Let's get in the football. What you got for your first bit of any other business, my friend?
I think there's only one place to start for me. It's got to be the Eric Dyer incident from last week, and obviously people weren't aware of what happened. That there was a penalty shootout between Tottenham Hotspur and Norwich City in the FA Cup. Norwich won on penalties after a very good display, and then there was an incident in the stand which Eric Dyer wasn't very happy about, and then took it upon himself to go and sort it out. So climbed probably about 50 seats, and then chased an individual who subsequently ran away. And I'm interested in that. You know what I mean? I've seen loads of things on social media, and I've seen different comments and things. And I've seen at the first it was a racist comment, and then I've seen it was a comment about him towards his family, and his family weren't happy. So, but for me, they're both of much of a muchness for me. So if it's personal towards somebody and he wasn't happy about what was going on, do I think he had every right to go and do what he did? As long as he didn't go above and beyond, I would not throw the book at him. I would not do anything untoward for me. And I think because it's so different what Eric Cantona did, people are comparing it and things. And for me, you know what I mean, the Kung Fu kick what Cantona did back in the 90s was so different to what Eric Dyer did. And for me, I'm not sure he should have done what he did, but at the same time, he was protecting one of his own and protecting himself. So, you know what I mean? I'm interested to see what you think. But for me, I would probably do exactly the same as what he did.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one, isn't it? I saw an interesting article with Dave Kitson where he did something similar, where he was getting abused and called ginger this and ginger that. And as he was coming out of the tunnel, the guy was really abusive and aggressive as they came in for half time, and he grabbed the fan, and the fan completely, basically crapped himself on that. Yeah. None of the people around him backed him up or supported him. And then at the end of the game, Dave Kitson scored a last-minute winner. in the second half, and then he went back over, and the guy had left, which I think says a lot about the mentality of it, that you're like when you're abusing people that personally and that close up. I can't remember if I said it on the show or if I told you personally, but when I went to watch Cardiff versus Swansea a few years ago, David Cottrell was warming up for Swansea. He's obviously born in Cardiff. He's Welsh, obviously, in Cardiff. And I was in the standing disabled bit, and there was loads of kids around, and behind me there was these two guys, and they were screaming abuse at David Cottrell as he was warming up. And because where he was warming up and because of the section we were in, he could hear everything. And honestly, mate, I'm no prude. I'm very not offended by it. It takes a lot to offend me, and I wasn't offended, but I felt really uncomfortable with some of the stuff he was saying. It was really horrible, just nasty, vile stuff. And to be fair to David Cottrell, he laughed it off. But that's the only time where I've ever been in a football ground and I've been a bit no, there's no need for that, really. Yeah. And it was proper nasty. In terms of Eric Dyer, I don't think they should do anything. Maybe they could fine him and give him a 2-match ban or something. He didn't really do anything.
No,
really.
No, people
if you jump in the crowd to celebrate a goal, you get a yellow card.
Yeah.
He didn't do much more than that. The guy, from what I can gather, was bang out of order.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you said, the initial rumours was that it was something to do with one of the other Spurs players had been racially abused, and he'd kind of flipped. But I think from what I read, after, in the days afterwards, it was about his younger brother. I don't know how old his younger brother is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if his younger brother is a kid or if he's a grown adult and he was just having a bit of a set to with someone and then it got a bit nasty, or whether it was a young kid who was intimidated by what was going on around him. I'm not entirely sure about that. But they are two very different situations again then, aren't they? Because say his younger brother's 20 and he's just had a disagreement with some fans. Maybe they were saying Eric Dyer's crap. And then on the other hand, if it's a young kid and who's scared or intimidated or there's something going on, I can understand him darting up there. Do you see what I mean? But whereas if it's a grown adult who's just having a bit of a disagreement, then maybe it's a bit of an overreaction.
It's a tough one saying it because you don't want to stop people from going to games. You don't want stopping people from having an opinion because people pay good money to go and watch football, so they're entitled to the opinion. But at the same time, people's family are also entitled to go and watch their husband, son, brother, and they're entitled to go to the game and feel safe and feel that they can go and watch the game. They shouldn't have to sit in a box, for example, and you know what I mean, and eat prawn sandwiches and do all that. You know what I mean? The best atmosphere is when you sit in a stand and you watch the game with the real fans. But you know what I mean? If it's just a comment and you're hearing a comment and you've taken it the wrong way, you know what I mean? I remember my mum, she came to watch loads of games, Middlesbrough and Cardiff, and sometimes after a game she'd be a bit upset because she'd heard comments, but she just kept himself to herself and told me later on, or you know what I mean, or I could tell. But unfortunately, it's part and parcel of the game, and you've just got to take it and just get on with it because you know what I mean. It happens to the best in the world. You know what I mean? David Beckham took loads of stick, you know what I mean, on and off the pitch, especially when he got sent off against Argentina. You know what I mean? His shirts were getting burnt on a stake and stuff, and some of the abuse he was getting on the pitch and off the pitch. And you know, unfortunately, it happens. So you know what I mean? You got to find a way and a mechanism of dealing with that way of you know what I mean of abuse really, and it's not nice. It's never nice to hear.
No,
you know what I mean, getting abused, but. It's the same thing with reading a newspaper, reading social media, listening to the radio. You know what I mean? It happens as well by pundits, by reporters, by the local press. You know what I mean? So you either blank it all out and you're clever and you're good at doing it, or you take it on the chin and prove people wrong. And you know what I mean? And Eric Dyer next week scores a goal or does something really well and celebrates in front of. You know what I mean? There's ways and means of doing it. So you know what I mean? And that's the way that I would handle it.
let's tie something else in with it. On Saturday at Cardiff Barnsley, yet again, there was a couple of those tannoy warnings. So I read on Vince Elm, who's Cardiff City Supporters Club guy, on his Facebook, that the first one was about the Barnsley fans calling Sean Morrison a sheepshagger.
Yeah.
But Sean Morrison's English, by the way, just
to
point that out, which makes zero sense. And then the second one was about Cardiff fans singing the usual England song. Now, to me, that's not what those warnings are for. And you're just, tarring fans from clubs, and in Cardiff's case, it's happened twice now, at least twice. You're tarring those fans with being racist when they're not. They're not.
No.
I'm all for not kicking racism out, and I'm all for making sure that the banter stays below the line. But you also don't want to take out the banter between away fans and home fans, and away fans or home or fans generally with the players, because you just lose another part of football. And to me, we've lost so much of football with VAR. Do we need it to be like killing the atmospheres as well by these ridiculous warnings for things which are, it's not what it's for. It's not what it's supposed to be used as. And frankly, I've had a titful of it.
Well, Si, who's taking offence to this? You know what I mean? Because I'm a proud Englishman. I played for Cardiff. I lived in Wales. I mean, my daughter's born in Cardiff, so she's Welsh. I had absolutely no qualms at all hearing the English songs, you know what I mean, which I thought were quite, quite hilarious. You know what I mean? It gets the atmosphere going between the two groups of supporters. I didn't obviously, see any offence taken when English fans, and I'll use Bristol City as an example. And Stoke City, we had some great games against both of those football clubs, and the rivalry and the songs were chanted throughout from the first to the last. Sometimes extra time, and unfortunately, it is what it is, and it made the game, and it made you look forward to another game against your rivals, because it made it have an edge. And you've just said it there. You take that away from me, it would just be boring. You might as well have no fans in the ground, and
that's the thing. It just
basically
kills
it,
doesn't
I mean? And what's the point? It's football's for supporters. You know what I mean? And the supporters want to be entertained, and sometimes if the game's not entertaining, they've got to entertain themselves, and sometimes they're really good at doing that. And that's both sets of supporters. And if they can bounce off each other, you know what I mean?
It creates for a fantastic atmosphere, doesn't it? When the fans are going off each other, and they come up with some hilarious songs.
I remember going with my dad to loads of games all over the country and to watch Middlesbrough, and I'd spend half the time like looking at supporters and looking at the you know what I mean. It's just that's just what it is as a young lad, and you're just amazed by it all, because it just makes football. And the people, they're causing the problem with these announcements that they're tarring the clubs with a brush and calling them racists, and what Barnsley and Reading, in particular, need to be very careful of is they're going to tar their own clubs as well, because it wasn't just Cardiff supporters who was singing songs; it was their own teams as well. And there's been loads of incidents since the Reading debacle that people doing aeroplane salutes and various things. And I just think there's bigger things happening in football at the minute, and worse things happening than a couple of conversations between between two sets of fans. And let's get in the real world and just enjoy a bit of banter between two passionate football teams who are, Barnsley are trying to stay in the division, Cardiff are trying to push for the playoffs. Fans from both sets of teams are passionate about the game, and that could be next week another team. Like Leeds are coming to Cardiff next week. Are you telling me next week that Leeds aren't going to sing English songs, anti-Welsh songs? It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Got to.
It's going to happen. And
likewise, it adds to the atmosphere.
because Leeds and Cardiff, the rivalries it's tenfold than probably anywhere
Historic,
else.
isn't it?
And I played in loads of cracking games because of that atmosphere. And if there's no atmosphere and Leeds fans weren't allowed to come because of that, just cancel the game, because what's the point?
Yeah. So Alan, the post I've put up there now, Alan, I think he's referring to Dyer. Now he is right. If a fan comes on the pitch, it's an instant banning order. They often get a massive fine and can end up in jail. So when you look at it from that point of view, maybe he does need to accept, he should get done for it. Gaz is in the house, he says hello, and he says that Dyer has to get done or it sets a precedent for other players to do the same. And what you can't have is if he gets away scot-free, is the next time a player hears some sort of abuse, he can't then, like if he takes it into his own house and punches are thrown, he can turn around and say, well, you didn't punish Dyer, so why am I getting punished? So I do think, going back to the original point, that he probably does have to have a ban, but it's whether. I did want to ask you a question, actually, mate. It's completely non-football, but it's not going to be a long conversation. I just wanted to hear your opinion of what went on in the rugby yesterday with, I forget his name, Marla, and I think it was Alan Wynne-Jones. Because I've seen all sorts of stuff on social media. I don't like rugby. I'm like one of the few Welsh people who doesn't really like rugby. I met my wife watching rugby, but that's another story. Thank you, Willie, again. But yeah, go for it. What? Give me your opinion on that very briefly.
I watched the game, but didn't really take much, of notice of what was going on. And for me, I don't know, Si. I think a lot of these things are blown up out of proportion a little bit, and the issue is caused. The issue is caused by media and by especially social media after the event. And I just wish that sometimes that the game was just left to just to be enjoyed, and whatever happens on the pitch is good and bad. It's just left there, because it's the same as football side. We could carry on talking forever and a day about certain incidents in rugby, in football, in hockey, ice hockey, whatever you want to. You know what I mean? And I just think sometimes you don't need to have the conversation about it. And you know what I mean? And sometimes we talk about the bad more than, you know what I mean, to keep the publicised. It's like this coronavirus, you can talk about it forever, and it's given the publicity. And sometimes I just think sometimes you just don't want to.
Yeah.
Give it
negativity all the time, isn't it?
All the time.
Like the one thing I'd say,
and that's football as well, though, Si, and I just get a little bit tedious and boring at times now.
The one thing I'd say about it is, in 2020, he should have known better.
Yeah.
Like, he should have known the uproar that it would cause.
Yeah.
Like I saw people saying like he should get done for sexual assault and all this sort of thing.
No.
I think that's like going like way to the extreme. And and I know what people will say. They will say straight away, oh well, if you did that in work, you'd get done. And I get that point of view, but
when there's youngsters watching it, Si, and I fully get that, and I get the when there's youngsters, you know what I mean, there's rugby at the minute, especially when the
like if kids copy that next weekend.
Yeah, they go on the rugby pitch on Sunday and they do exactly the same thing, and I fully get that. And it happens to football, and when you see Eric Dyer climbing up, you know what I mean, and it's these players are role models, and they've got to remember that. But at the same time, they're human beings, and they're allowed sometimes to make errors of judgment. But it's how they're allowed to deal with that in their own way and apologise without getting absolutely crucified before they're given an opportunity to get it right, you know?
Yeah, that's all the rugby I would like to talk about. I'm not a fan, but I just was interested to hear your kind of take on it, because it's all, it's everywhere, isn't it? It's been all over the place today. Richie says that if it's idiots in football that have no respect for human beings, how can someone abuse a player who plays for a certain club, but then the next week he's a god for their country? And that's spot on. And I mean, in many ways, you could, going back to my the story I was telling you about David Cottrell. He would have played for Wales like a month later, if he was still in the squad, and those guys would have been cheering him. I get rivalry, especially between Cardiff, Swansea, and other clubs. But there's got to be a line at some point, I think. Alan says it's not just football; it's life in general. The PC Brigade has taken over, and I think that there's something to be said for that as well. Absolutely, because
the line's got even finer side now. The line's got even finer, and it's if Joe Bloggs takes offence, then everyone's got to take offence, and everyone's got an opinion on something, and it's just, you know what I mean? If someone takes offence at everything, and so you're not allowed to do anything now, you know what I mean? And I think that's the problem we've got, you know what I mean? If it offends one person, it's wrong. Well, you know what I mean? Not everyone's going to take offence at something, and some people could just do it just because they're just that way inclined, and I'm not comfortable with that because it's not really fair on everybody else.
Tell you what was funny about the rugby thing. Did you see Gareth Thomas's comment afterwards?
I didn't see his comment,
even he had to apologise. So obviously, Gareth Thomas, former Welsh international, he came out as gay, didn't he, a few years ago?
Yeah.
He straight after they showed the replay of the incident, he was the first one to speak, and he said something. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, "If you didn't see that in my day, if you had, I wouldn't have retired." Something like that. They all burst out laughing. All like a joke amongst friends, and it was like tongue-in-cheek, bit cheeky humour.
Yeah.
And he had to apologise for it. And I was like, Jesus, what are we doing with this now? Like, you just can't make a joke about anything?
Yeah, the thing is, he's making a joke about himself.
About himself.
So if you can't even make a joke about yourself because you're upsetting someone, that's what have we got
sad,
left?
Mate. It's sad. I think that's the world is losing their humour. I don't know if you can see that, but that just there is a nice black Andy Campbell Championship show shirt.
Lovely.
Johnny Wish is in the house. He says, if only you knew what went on rugby tours. I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming he means that a lot worse happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the beautiful game, the round ball. It was the Manchester Derby yesterday, which is why you've got a hangover.
Yep.
Alan Jones, nice logo on the ball, indeed. I don't know where I've seen that before somewhere.
To be honest, I thought it was a really decent game. You spoke about Man United, about the improvements they've made, and you know what I mean. And I was first to jump on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's back and be critical of the way that he's set his side up. You know what I mean. For me, without your best player as well, without Rashford being there, and I thought for long periods of the game, I thought that the pin Man City back. I thought Man City started the game very well. And they dominated possession, dominated all the chances really, and then all of a sudden, Matty James had a good opportunity, and probably ever since that, then you know what I mean. Aguero didn't have a shot on target or off target, and I thought Man United towards the end of the first half were the better side, and Man City were hanging on, and you could tell Guardiola wasn't best pleased with what he was seeing, and they went in for me at half time probably deservedly ahead, and second half, you just knew they were going to sit back and attack on the break because they've just got those kind of players. And Fernandes, you know what I mean, Fred, Matic, you know what I mean, bringing on Tomine. You know what I mean, you said, Si, about the midfield. The midfield is the most important part, and it just showed how much City missed De Bruyne. Obviously, Aguero wasn't having a great game apart from the offside goal, which was touch and go, and it was really unlucky that not to, what was his elbow was offside, and but then Man City overplay and give a silly goal away at the end, which obviously sums them up really this season and probably sums the season up so far. But you know what I mean, a nice advert for the Premier League and just shows that Man United could be a force to be reckoned with if they could just get everybody fit and healthy and firing at the same time, because you know they've got a good record against the big sides and probably apart from Liverpool. So you know what I mean. But they need to get it.
They've beaten City 3 times, haven't they, this year?
3 times out of 4. Yeah.
Like Man City have lost 7 league games this year.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve. Mr. Steve Todd's in the house.
Steve Todd.
Welcome. Welcome. Yeah, I tell you what, it goes. I was going to talk to you about the Manchester derby, but I also wanted to talk about VAR and the standard of goalkeeping generally. So I'm going to kind of mix it all in together a bit. Fred got a yellow carded for diving.
Yeah.
What is the point in having VAR if you have an incident like that and he gets booked for diving? Now, that's never the one thing I think we can agree on is it's not a dive. Whether you think it's a penalty or not a penalty,
I don't think it was a penalty.
It's not a dive.
I don't think it was a penalty, but there was contact.
He kicked him in the shins.
Yeah, but there's not.
So
it's definitely contact. It's 100% not a yellow card, and I felt you just feel cheated a little bit, Si, because it went to VAR. They looked at it, and then they decided it wasn't a penalty, but then they still give him a yellow card, and I just think it's just criminal, really, and just shows that they're not using it for the good that they should be using it for, and this is a problem we've got. You know what I mean? There's so many grey areas with it, Si, and then you can go on later on about the Aguero goal that his legs are onside but his elbows offside because the way he was running when the ball was kicked, and it's laughable, really. You know what I mean? Apparently we want more goals in the Premier League, but it's just impossible when someone's backside's offside or the toenails offside, and you know what I mean. We're getting so many things wrong at the minute, and it's just gonna carry on ruining football unless they're sorted out, and all these grey areas are just black and white.
Yeah, I tell you, and another thing I wanted to speak about was the standard of goalkeeping. Like we've talked about it a lot this year in Championship football. There's been some howlers. Now, Emerson's made 2 massive howlers. Actually, it was nearly 3 because just after that Aguero disallowed goal, he had lost the ball in his own penalty area, and then he had to clear it off the line. So it could have been 3-0 with 3 errors. The first one, you can kind of it is an error. He should have saved it, but you can kind of give it to him because it's a reaction save sort of thing. He should save it, but whatever, he should do better. The second one is just where he's rushing. The second goal is where he's rushing. The one where they nearly scored is just laziness. Now, I've got a question for you. I was going to save it till the end, but I'll say it now. Would you rather have an excellent shot stopper whose distribution from his hands and his feet are okay, but he's not great with the ball from a back pass, and he's not a sweeper keeper, so he's not on the very edge of his box cutting off through balls? He's just in his box waiting to save. He backs himself to make the save. What would you rather have, that or a sweeper keeper who's decent at shot stopping but is prone to an occasional error?
So we spoke last week about Joe Hart and about the reason why he left Man City was because his distribution wasn't as good as the other Man City goalkeepers. But for me, probably a better goalkeeper, and it's ruined his career for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And go back in the day, Peter Schmeichel. When did you ever see Peter Schmeichel try and take people on or try and be clever with the ball? The ball came back to him, he'd kick it straight out. But he knew his job was to keep the ball at the net. You know what I mean? So for me, the job of a goalkeeper is quite simple. You know what I mean? The job of a goalkeeper is to be safe with your hands, to be good at crosses, and to be a good shot stopper. The added bonus is if you can trust them and go back and play. But we don't all play like Man City side, do we? You know what I mean? And I don't really.
No.
It's brilliant to watch. Don't get me wrong, but not every team can play like that. You know what I mean? I looked at and I think I tagged you in it on social media about Henderson's save against Norwich for Sheffield United, and there's a goalkeeper who I don't think I've ever noticed him be that clever with his feet. But I tell you what, when it comes to his hands, he looks safe as house, and he'll dive to stop that ball going in his net. And isn't that his job? You know what I mean? If he goes back to Man United, if he goes, you know what I mean, in a year and a half,
I think he will. I think he'll be Man United's number 1 next year.
Yeah, when he's loan. Well, I think he's got another. I think his loan is for another season after this. I think it's already agreed, from what I read.
But they can recall him.
Back, yeah.
They can recall him. And look, if I was Man United, De Gea's made a few errors this year. They could still make 75 million on him to Madrid or whoever. They could easily, people will still pay for him. He's still a great goalkeeper. I would be selling him for 75 million and keep Hendon, your replacement, you've already got the best number 2 in the Premier League. And then you spend that 75 million because, Solskjaer thinks he's 3 players away from challenging for the title. I think I agree. I think they need a centre-back like a Koulibaly or someone like that. And I think they need an out-and-out striker.
Yeah, they do. They need
who's going to bag them 25, like a Lewandowski or like someone who will bag like 30 goals a season.
They need a 9. They need a player to run the front line. They haven't had one of those for quite a long time.
Rashford and Martial are more like wide attacking, aren't they? I think
you've got
they're
your
more
10s,
effective.
Yeah, you've got your 10s, yeah.
Gaz said that I was wrong about Fernandes. Obviously, we've talked about Fernandes and United's midfield the last couple of weeks. He's some player, mate, isn't he?
He gets them going, Si. He makes them tick. He's technically very good, you know what I mean? He always wants the ball, and he's that missing link what they've had, you know, because they've probably gone a little bit too direct this season and not gone through the centre of the park, and now they're able to go through the centre and go wide and then back through the centre, and they can trust the midfielders again because they've always had that kind of play, Si, you know what I mean? We're looking at Scholesy, you know what I mean? Even go back to Brian McClare's and those kind of players, Pogba, you know what I mean, when he wanted to play. But now they've got a player now who they can really trust in there to be that link for in between the lines of the defence and attack. And it's a sign of a good side, you know what I mean, and the need to make that count and continue. And if they can get some more probably goals to their game but I wouldn't say against the Man Cities and stuff, but the games that they've struggled in this season, Man United, is when what did they do? Draw against Wolves and you know what I mean, and Watford and Everton. You know what I mean. The games that they've struggled and let themselves down is the games which they probably should have won, and the games that you don't expect them to win, like yesterday, and probably 3 times already this season. They go and beat Man City, and it's the Jekyll and Hyde of probably Man United, and that's probably what.
Well, we talked to. Go on.
No, it's probably what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants rid of because you can't afford to drop points against the lesser sides because it's the bread and butter. The bread and butter is you need enough points to finish in that top 4, top 5.
Yeah, we talked about the importance of the FA Cup, and you made an impassioned plea about the treating it with respect, and the FA not doing so. Manchester United now 10 games unbeaten in all competitions. That run started when they beat Tranmere 5-0 in the cup, playing a strong side, which shows you that the cup competitions can be so important for getting momentum and really getting a team which is struggling to perform, getting them going. If you make you win a strong game, even if it's against a lower league team, those breed confidence. And Solskjaer. I just saw a comment and then someone said, sorry. It was Johnny said Pochettino or OGS for United.
It's a difficult one.
I think my personal opinion. Go on, you go first. Go on.
If you'd asked me a month ago, I'd have given you a completely different answer because for me that football club was going absolutely nowhere. But you've got to give credit where credit's due now, and for somebody to turn their fortunes around at that football club and attract the Fernandes, for me, Ollie's got to stay at the wheel and he's got to be given an opportunity. You know what I mean? I read today that Jude Bellingham's been in for talks as well today, so there's another exciting player going to sign as well. So
my opinion with Solskjaer is if they're going to keep Solskjaer and not bring in Pochettino, they've got to back him in the summer. They've got to if he's going to sell Pogba and De Gea, you get it done in August. You sign. Steve just said, would they take a risk on Grealish? I think Grealish will go to Man United. I also think Jude Bellingham will go to Man United. And if they sell Pogba, sign Grealish and Bellingham, and then sign a striker, you look at that team potentially as a fantastic team for 15 years. But they've got to either decide whether they're going to back him. And if they're going to back him, they've got to give him the rest of his contract, give him the money to spend, and say, right, you're our guy no matter what happens, unless you have like a massive international incident or something, illegal whatever it may be. You're our guy. You've got this much to spend every transfer window. Go and get us back to where we should be. Or they've got to say, right, thank you, Ollie. We appreciate everything you've done. We appreciate you stabilising the club, bringing back the focus on young players. But we would like to now move to Pochettino. And they've got to do it in the summer. They've got to decide either way. They can't have Pochettino in the background hanging over Solskjaer. So he thinks that, he loses a couple of games and is back to the same old pressure. It's got to be one or the other. Martin McAllister's joined us. He says, hello. Welcome, Martin. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Okay. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. You will be able to tell me more than what I know. Referees in the Championship, are they basically the referees that are not good enough for the Premier League?
Oh, they're making so many errors, Si. I've seen so many decisions.
It's appalling, mate.
Yeah, I've seen so many decisions at the weekend, which, and some of them will obviously go through in greater detail, but some of them were embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing, disastrous, and for me, how those referees are able to then officiate at that level is just absolutely just disastrous. You know what I mean? That what we've got. We've got Steve Todd in watching, and we've got Martin Mulcaster in watching. I went to watch their team on Saturday, and the officiating in non-league football is absolutely disgusting. You know what I mean? So the worse down you get, the even worse you get. So the Championship.
Sorry, Martin just said I think I misnamed him. I apologise, Martin. I hate it when I do that to people.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, Andy, to interrupt you.
That's all right. But the officiating side across the board, for me, the Premier League is getting lazy because of VAR. Championship is getting lazy because they're probably expecting needing VAR to help them out because they're not at the minute able to make their own decisions. And lower down you get, it's just getting even more worse. And non-league football, you know what I mean? At the minute, you might as well just referee the games yourselves because it's just disgusting. And it's people losing jobs. It's people losing faith in football and enjoyment because what's the point in turning up and wasting your Saturday afternoon when you've got kids and you've got family if you're just going to get... you're just going to get decisions after decision against you, and it sometimes it seems personal. That's what I would say. You know what I mean? I looked at a couple at the weekend. One in particular in the Cardiff game. You know what I mean? That managers say that they even themselves out over the course of time. Well, I'm not seeing this at the minute. You know what I mean? There was 2 penalty decisions last week. There was another one this week. So when are they getting evened out? They're not getting evened out whatsoever. So you know what I mean? I'm a little bit confused with that all. But let's. Well, Si's gone. I'll carry on to one thing that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Joe Allen. So obviously Joe being Wells picked up a horrific injury at the weekend for Stoke. So he ruptured his Achilles. He's going to miss the Euros, unfortunately, and. Joe's 34 years old, coming up to 35, and I was 31 when I did mine, and I never really recovered. You know what I mean, probably the way I played, and I relied on my pace a little bit. That meant that I wasn't really able to function the way that I wanted to, and come back the way that I wanted to play. But I feel really sorry for him, for Joe, that he's going to miss the Euros, but I hope he comes back fit and strong and healthy and plays as long as he can because, you know what I mean, it's awful injury, awful being injured at the best of times, but I've had that injury myself and I know what he's gonna have to go through, and I'm going to have an operation and repair, and to come back he's looking at between 6 and 12 months, and it's not nice, and fingers crossed everything works out for him.
I'm back. I apologise about that. Something happened with my internet. I was just saying, Harjath Sethi is the gentleman from SSJ Designs who designed our logo for the year. So that's I'm really happy to see him in the chat. Welcome, my friend.
Yeah.
Everyone loves your logo as well. Just on Joe Allen. Look, I'm devastated for him. He's at an age where he might not get another chance for another national tournament. And like you said to me off air, I don't know if you just mentioned it then, you had the same injury and it's very, very difficult to come back from.
Yeah.
He doesn't rely on his pace, though, as much as you did. So maybe, it won't be but he's so important to Wales. Like Richie's just said there, he's a rock in the midfield for Wales, and he really, really is.
Yeah.
And I said to you, he's such a nice bloke as well. I really feel for him. He's so innocuous. However, on the other side of it, it is a tremendous opportunity for someone to step up now between now and the season and take a place in that Wales starting 11 at the heart of the midfield. Whether it's, I saw someone early on in the chat say Will Vokes, who's actually doing really well for Cardiff since he's been starting. I had a conversation with Kelly, who I'm not sure is in the chat today, but she was in it last week, who said she thinks that Ethan Ampadu would be a good shout for the holding midfielder role. Aaron Ramsey could do it. He's more than capable of doing it. But I think you lose too much by moving Ramsey back. But then when you've got people like Daniel James and, Bale, then can you sacrifice Ramsey and play him a bit deeper? And maybe he plays more of a kind of quarterback creative role. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But there's a chance there. Wales have got some unbelievable under 21s and young players. It's an opportunity for someone to really try and grab the bull by the horns and take that, Joe's place. Joe's experienced and he's a leader, as Steve's just said there, and you can't replace that, unfortunately. I do wonder. I said to my friend yesterday that I now think Hal Robson-Kanu will go to the tournament, whereas I didn't before Joe Allen's injury. Now, obviously, they don't play the same position, but I think Giggs has got such a young squad that I think he'll want to take some experienced players, even if they don't start or play every game, who can just help. They've been there and done it. They went to the Euros in France just to help those young players, remain focused and settled. I don't know what you think about that.
Listen, so it opens a massive door for somebody and gives somebody else an opportunity to play. And I'm devastated for anybody to miss games and miss a major tournament, because it's the pinnacle of your career. And I can imagine that he was looking forward to so much. And he was, do you know what? However badly the Stoke City were playing, he was playing really well. You know what I mean? And he was turning things around, and he was always, you know what I mean? He was probably the main stalwart of their side, and I think it opens the door for somebody else, and it gives somebody else an opportunity. And if that is Will Vokes, if it's for somebody else, if they change the shape and the formation, they've got to try something new, then I'd be interested and excited to see what that is, because like you said earlier, Si, about this is probably his last opportunity to play in a major tournament. So after this, they probably would have had to go down a different route anyway. So it's just put the ball in someone else's court a little bit earlier than they wanted to, and gutted on one hand but excited on another, and you know what I mean. And I'm sure Joel will wish whoever takes his place and all the best, and hope that they succeed and carry on with the good work that he's done in the side. And I'm sure that'll be fine. Whoever takes his place is good enough, because Wales have got some exciting players to come through for me.
Yeah, would you still invite him if you were manager to come travel with the squad? Oh
yeah, 100%. I think it'd be an opportunity if he's that way inclined, that maybe he might want to help out on the coaching side and do something. I think it'll be an opportunity for him to do that, and yeah, I think that'll be great.
So Richie just asked, who do you think is the best replacement for him? Johnny Wish said he'd play Ethan Ampadu there. Gaz is from a West Ham fan. He says that Giggs should play in CDM. Maybe a couple of years ago, I'm not sure he could pull it off now. He'd probably pull out of the squad anyway. So Richie makes a point. He says that Vokes deserves a chance. He's in form. I like Ampadu, and I think whilst I like Will Vokes, and I do believe he absolutely should be in the squad, he does deserve a chance to maybe in some of the friendlies see if he can cement that position. I'm not 100% convinced that Will Vokes is the answer, though. Straight away. I'm not saying he can't be. I'm not saying he's not. But he doesn't make me think as a Welshman, oh, it's okay, we've got Will Vaulks there. Don't worry about it.
It's a big ass side for
does that
me.
make sense?
It's
Yeah,
a big,
it's a lot,
it's a big,
isn't it?
it's a big ask for me, and I see it as you know what I mean, Joe. They're both just two different players. You know what I mean? Joe likes to get on the ball. He's neat and tidy. He knits things together from defence to attack. He can score goals. They're just two different players for me, and you can't compare the two. And the style of play would have to change a little bit if it is Will Vaulks instead. So I don't think you can really compare the two.
One thing you could do is play Ramsey there and then play Tom Lawrence in the like number 10 role, which Ramsey plays.
Yeah.
I think that could be a solution because I think he's capable. Alan Jones is David Brooks. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he'd play that holding role. Does he play there? Where does Brooks play?
I thought he played wide.
Was a wide player.
Wide left. Yeah, I thought he played wide left, and you know.
But then I suppose he could play. You know, he could play that Ramsey role, and then you could play Ramsey as the holder. I think Ramsey's capable of playing that, like Beckham used to do when he went central, because his vision's tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
you've got Tom Lawrence as well.
Good players can play everywhere, but you know what I mean. To ask a wide man to play centre midfield in a major tournament against the world's best is a big ask. You know what I mean. So for me, the maybes might have to be a style of play change, and obviously personnel's going to have to change. So
Johnny Williams would be a good shout. I think.
He's not a bad player.
Johnny Williams. You know, if Joe Ledley had been playing for anyone, he could have been a shout, but he's just not played. He's now in Australia, now, I think. So, but he hasn't played.
No.
Yeah, he hasn't. No. Johnny Williams, I think, would be my shout, or Johnny Williams or Vaulks, and I'd also in one of the friendlies play Ramsey there with Tom Lawrence or Brooks in Ramsey's position just behind the striker, and see work, because I feel like that could work. You know, they've got options. They've got some cracking young players who could slot in there as well, whether it's an Ampadu or a Morrow or a what's the other one? Rabbi. I forget his surname.
Yeah,
someone remind me in the live chat. Rabbi something.
For Schalke, yeah. Difficult side though, isn't it? It's a difficult one for me because you know, I mean, they've got to. They're going to have to try. They're going to have to try a variation of things to get it right, because it's a big ask to throw somebody in, and just expect it to work straight away. They're going to have to try a variation of things, and someone's going to have to potentially play out of position.
Okay, guys, just before we go on to the championship stuff, if you guys could drop a thumbs up or a like if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and give the video a share, or keep dropping comments in the live chat, because that engagement, whilst it only takes 2 seconds to give a thumbs up or comment, whatever it may be, it helps us lift our engagement as a show, which helps us find people who are not linked to our followers already. But we're growing all the time, and I appreciate each and every one of you and everything you do to share, comment, and like. I appreciate it. Just going quickly back to Awayday Apparel, they're now available in Caerphilly in store. It's Mojo King on Clive Street in Caerphilly. You can now get Awayday Apparel merchandise in there as well. Unfortunately, you cannot use the 10% off code in there, but you can find stuff there in Clive Street. So I encourage you all to check that out, because they're massive supporters of our show and the work we do. There was one more thing that was what I was going to ask you. How difficult was that ball by Fernandez to Martial for the first goal?
It's probably the hardest skill in the world, Si. You know what I mean? To get it up and over, and to be able to take the pace off the ball, and you know what I mean, to give Martial the opportunity to get a shot away as well. You know what I mean? And he's just very good at what he does. You know what I mean? Because his practice makes perfect, and he's technically very good. And and it's just a joy to watch. And you know what I mean? It's just the Premier League's just been waiting, and Man United has just been absolutely crying out for this kind of player for a very long time. And long may he continue to carry this form on, because, like we said earlier on, Si, about
It's wonderful to watch, isn't it?
well, supporters pay to be entertained, Si. You know what I mean? We on about this earlier on, and you pay to be entertained, and that's what you buy. That's why all these players cost a lot of money. But when I say a lot of money, Si, I think he's a bargain, absolute bargain for the amount of money what they paid for him now, because already he's starting to pay back a huge chunk of a transfer fee.
Yep, absolutely. So now we're going to move on to the Championship football. Guys, every Saturday we put up the polls for you to vote for the 3 main games. This week we've got 4 main featured games because there was a draw in one of the polls. But I always share them to Instagram and Facebook as well. So if you get bored of the Cardiff or Borough being in the main featured games and you'd rather see a difference, then you must vote, and you must, share it and whatnot, retweet. So the first game was Barnsley 0, Cardiff City 2. What did you make of that one, mate?
Well, I thought so. I thought it was going to be a really tricky game, because we've raved about Barnsley recently. They create loads and loads of chances, but they never really started, and they never got going after half time. I thought it was a very nervy first half. Barnsley never really got into the game, and that was probably down to Cardiff's tactics and the way that they defended again really well this time. They didn't give Barnsley an opportunity to take the lead. You know, I've been very critical of the way Cardiff City start games, and I thought this game particularly, I thought Neil Harris got his tactics absolutely spot on. The only attack in the first half was through Albert Adoma, and he probably could have done a little bit better. Could have gone across the goalkeeper instead of having a shot near post. But I thought the second half, I thought Cardiff were absolutely excellent. How they didn't get a penalty is beyond me. Junior Hoylett should have scored with a header over the bar from Joe Rals's cross. And then all of a sudden, the way that Cardiff were growing into the game, and then Will Vaughan's got his goal after excellent play, you know what I mean, patient play down the right hand side, and then straight off kick off again, Sanderson's ball down the line, and Patterson got in and he finished really well. And I thought Cardiff deserved it. I'll go back to the penalty side straight away though, because if anybody hasn't seen it, you know what I mean, Patterson went up for a 50-50 tackle with the goalkeeper in the air. The goalkeeper's jumped to try and catch the ball. The goalkeeper's dropped the ball under no contact whatsoever, and Patterson's just about to tap the ball in. The goalkeeper's rugby tackled him to the floor, and the referee just doesn't see it. And it just absolutely baffles you, because that could have had a massive impact on Cardiff's season, Cardiff's promotion push.
Yeah.
And luckily enough for Cardiff, it didn't have an impact. So the probably incident just goes under the radar a little bit. And you know, for me, it shouldn't. It should be highlighted, because it's the mistakes by. If Cardiff don't get promoted or don't get in the playoffs by a goal, that goal could be absolutely massive coming at the end of the season. And I think referees need to take even more responsibility for decisions like that, because it's just not right. But Cardiff side, I thought they were spot on. I know Neil was very impressed with the way that they played, and he had a good chat with the lads at half time apparently, and told them to carry on the way they're going. You know what I mean? For me, they were the best side, thoroughly deserved the 3 points, but it's consistency now, Si. You know what I mean? That for me, they have one good game, and then they have a bad game, and they've got to go into the next game next weekend against the best side in the league at the minute, and the team who was on fire and doing really well, and raise the game up to a level where they need to get 3 points off Leeds United, because if they've got any aspirations to get promoted, they've got to beat Leeds at the weekend. Have to.
They've got to get the momentum going. When you've got teams like Derby, Millwall, who are just on fire at the moment, they've got the momentum. Look, Johnny makes a really good point there. He says, like you said, Harris got his tactics right. I agree with you. He got his tactics right, particularly in the second half. But they still don't seem capable of playing a full game well. It's always
totally agree, Si. Well,
the first half or the second half.
I haven't seen.
I cannot put my finger on why.
I haven't seen them play a full probably 75 minutes, since he's took over. You know what I mean? Charlton's
No.
first game, poor first half, excellent second half. Saturday, average first half, good second half. You know what I mean? And the amount of times that they're given sides a foothold in the game and an opportunity to beat them is just it's just too many. And you know what I mean? If you're playing the best side in the league potentially at the weekend, you give Leeds or you play sloppy or average in the first half like you did on Saturday, then you'll be 1-2-0 down and you're chasing the game, and then against good teams you don't get back into it. So Cardiff have got to be bang on from the first minute to the last. You know what I mean? You're never going to dominate a full game because the Championship's not like that. But they need a strong performance at the weekend to give themselves an opportunity, because you know that I know Brentford and Fulham are playing each other. Preston are off form, so there's an opportunity there to hopefully, you know what I mean, claw something back. But you've got to do it.
It's remarkable that Cardiff are still in it.
Yeah, I know.
Remarkable.
Yeah, it's huge. But
then Cardiff are still able to get to the playoffs.
You know what I mean? Bristol City drew at the weekend. Preston lost. Millwall had a great result. So you know what I mean? There's always something happening. But Cardiff have got to capitalise on it, and they can't afford to rest on the laurels. They need a big push now. You know what I mean? You've got 9 games to go. For me, you're probably looking at six wins, and you know, it's a big ask. It's a big ask for anybody in the Championship at the minute now.
Well, Derby, who before Rooney came in, were looking like they needed him to keep them up. Look like they could be the ones to make that late run. We thought it might be Blackburn. I think they're now feeling the effects of losing Bradley Dack. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, you guys in the chat, let us know who you thought stood out for Cardiff, who did well, who's not up to standard recently. Adoma's done well since he's come in.
Yeah.
He's putting some crosses in the box, which is something that Cardiff have lacked. Severely. We've mentioned it several times about the crossing, and how they always wait until Glatzel's gone off. Patterson is. He's the kind of guy who I would just want to play football with. I'd want him in my team. He works his socks off. He seems like a good lad, but he scores goals. And people forget he's not a striker by trade. He's a defender. Can't defend very well, but you know, by trade he was a defender. But he's decent. He gets goals. And I think, other than Tomlin, he's been a massive lift for Cardiff since he came back from his injury to really push them on and grab some goals at important times. Barnsley just can't defend. It's unfortunate, because going forward they were good again. They just didn't get forward as much as they usually do. Yeah,
well, they normally start the create chances, but I think Cardiff defended reasonably well. You know what I mean, quite solidly. So I thought it's like, for me now, performance is out the window. It's all about results. And Cardiff need to get some positive results now. Doesn't matter about playing well, getting the playoffs playing well, and you just never know, because there's going to be a side, and it could be Derby, it could be whoever gets in that playoffs. I think it's going to come with a late push. I don't think it'll be the sides who are there. There'll be at least one team who gets in the playoffs right at the end, and then they probably favourites to go up because they'll be in form.
Yeah, guys, also don't forget to drop your questions in for the end of the show. Andy will answer you any questions you've got, football related, if you can, please. But he'll answer, his favourite music, all that sort of stuff. He'll answer anything, and we'll do them at the end of the show. Anyone stand out for you for Barnsley, mate, this week?
Not like the normal groups. You know what I mean? I've been very we've praised them going forward. Chaplin has always been excellent. Woodrow, I thought they were really quiet. I thought Cardiff's defence and midfield really marshalled them really well. And you know what I mean? Collins made a couple of decent saves, but then he was at fault for the penalty. So I thought defensively, I thought Barnsley struggled a little bit. We Cardiff got round the back, especially on the right hand side. I thought Williams was struggling against Albert. You know what I mean? Sanderson put some good balls forward, and for Patterson's goal
was good.
Yeah, and for the second goal, I thought it was one ball. It shouldn't really catch the back four out like it did. So I thought it was an off day for Barnsley, but they've had a couple of them recently. You know what I mean? They've lost the last two, so they need to seriously get back on because
Wigan and Luton are playing well as well, which is
they are.
ominous.
Middlesbrough won at the weekend, and Huddersfield have won, and Stoke won quite handsomely. So they need to be very careful because it's the wrong time in the minute to play badly.
Yeah, I thought Sanderson was very good again. For a young lad, he's doing really well. What does Brad Smith have to do to play?
So it's
a weird one.
Yeah, well, it's difficult though, isn't it? Because obviously there's one person who picks the team, and he picks the team, and you know what I mean. It's a results business, so you know what I mean. Sometimes it doesn't matter who's in the team when you start winning all these games, but it's about consistency, and it'll be interesting the team selection next weekend against the mighty Leeds. And will he go positive and go and try and win the game, or will he try and nullify the threats what Leeds have because they have plenty of them?
Yeah, it'd be interesting for sure. Okay, next up we have Charlton versus the mighty Middlesbrough.
Great results, Si. First and foremost, you know that I fully expected a Charlton side gung ho at Middlesbrough, having a right go at them from start to finish, and didn't happen. Didn't happen for me. I looked at the team selection before the start, and Jonathan Woodgate dropped Ainsley Pears and put the new £1 million goalkeeper in, Stekanovic.
Do you think he's unlucky, mate? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you think he's unlucky, Pears, to be dropped? I know he's made an error or two recently, but he's been outstanding all season.
He's been consistent, mate. Yeah, he's made some good saves, but I think the final nail in the coffin was the error against Nottingham Forest last Monday when we were live on the show last Monday when Forest equalised through Lewis Cobbin. It's a huge goal side that would have with 3 points against Forest and 3 points on Saturday. For me, that would have more or less made you safe, and it's the fine margins, and you know what I mean. I think you can't afford to make errors at big times in games, and it really cost them. And you know what I mean. Rudy Gestede played well against Forest, kept his place in the side, and set up Paddy McNair's goal. I thought Charlton started pretty well and could have taken the lead through Lyle Taylor, but poor Charlton defending let in Gestede, and he fed McNair, who finished really well. McNair was a constant threat. I thought was excellent driving through midfield. I thought Lyle Taylor was unlucky to get booked for another penalty decision. I thought on another day,
ridiculous.
On another day, that's given. There's contact again. For me, it's 50-50 if the referee gives it. It's not a dive. It's for me. I thought it was a penalty. I'll be honest. I'm not. This is me taking my Middlesbrough hat off. That I thought was a penalty. If that was the other way around, I'm screaming for a penalty. So it's certainly not a yellow card. Middlesbrough caused more problems. I thought Lewis Wing was excellent again, driving from midfield. Had a couple of decent shots, and Charlton finished strong and should have scored through Macaulay Bonne and missed an absolute sitter towards the end. And I feel really sorry for Lee Bowyer. He's had such an up and down season, so many distractions, and it's coming back really to bite them on the backside. Now they're in the bottom three side. Now they're in the bottom three side. It's a big, massive ask. Can they get out of it? Because they haven't been in the bottom three, I don't think, all season. So it's a huge ask for them to get out of it.
So Peaches wants to know if you've got any weird baby names yet.
No, just the usual
Petal or like Mercedes.
Nothing out of the blue. I think we're my two daughters are Kennedy and Frankie, so I'd like something on that's quite. They're both out the ordinary, so maybe something on similar.
And Kieran J. Campbell would like to know, are you sure?
Kieran's a top lad. I played with Kieran last year. He's a top lad. Top lad. I scored on Saturday side as well. Had another goal to the
collecting.
To the collect. Yeah, just another random goal, Si. Another random goal.
Header.
I don't do that. I'm rubbish. I just keep shutting my eyes. Lobbed over the goalkeeper, and then a calm finish.
Just like the Millennium Stadium.
Yeah, just
rolling back the years.
That's how I do it, Si. That's how I do it. That's how I do it.
Just how you roll. How you
That's how I do
roll. So next up, we got Leeds 2, Huddersfield 0 in the Yorkshire derby.
Yeah, well,
Leeds looking
to be honest,
sharp.
Yeah, they're looking sharp, and there's a continuation side about how well they are doing. I thought they started absolutely amazingly well, and Luke Aylin's goal was absolutely out of this world. You know what I mean? Great cross. Volley was better than the cross. And Leeds are just constant though. They just carry on and carry on and carry on, and probably should have been 2 or 3 ahead at half time, but they doubled the lead just in the second half. Early in the second half, it was an excellent header by Pearce, and Paddy Bamford was just there to tap it home. And I thought Huddersfield were disappointing. Really, they didn't really create a lot, didn't threaten, but they could have had a late penalty, but Leeds just dominate possession, they dominate shots, and the way the season's going, so I can't see them. It's just for me, it's a battle out of the two. Who's gonna get over the line first, and who's gonna continue to get to pick that title up? But it's got to be out of the two of them, because you know what I mean. We were worried about Leeds bottling it. I wouldn't say worried. We weren't worried, but we thought Leeds were bottling it. But for me now, they've turned it around themselves. And to be fair, they've been excellent, and they've continue to create a number of chances, and that's the way that you need to do this championship. You've got to attack the games, and the more goals you score in this league, the better chance you've got to get out of it. And you know what I mean, for me, we were concerned about the lack of firepower and the too much pressure on Bamford. But you know what I mean, if you can see the next 6, 7, 8 games out, they'll win the league, I think. But it's a big game on Sunday for them, because Cardiff will be tricky. It'll be tricky. It's always a hostile place to go, and Cardiff won't make it easy. Cardiff need the result. Leeds need the result, so it'll be interesting which way that game goes.
Yeah, John says finally Paddy B has scored. And he might go on a run now and score, a few goals.
Yeah, well, that's what happens.
But he hasn't been good enough, is he? Unfortunately.
No, well, results speak for themselves. Stats don't lie, and he hasn't scored enough goals. And for somebody in a side of Leeds' creativity and the amount of goals that Leeds have scored, he hasn't scored enough goals. Imagine that.
Davina Jones Campbell.
Imagine that. Yeah, imagine that.
So Peaches, we haven't had what are they called? Word association question from you for a few weeks. It's very disappointing.
Yeah,
so
I think
maybe
she's
wrestle us one up in the live chat.
Feeling sorry for me.
Well, she stitched you up a couple of times, didn't she?
Yeah, I know. She was
not as much as Roy Keane stitched up Micah Richards yesterday. Did you see that?
Yeah,
when he said, "Did you burst on the scene?"
Yeah,
like you could eat, and he took the bait as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
the bait, and he got a bit snarky. Yeah. Did old Micah?
Yeah.
But you knew what Keane was doing. He was trying to get a reaction, wasn't he?
It's all good fun, though. It's all good fun.
Yeah, it was only messing about, but it was funny. I thought Luke Aylin, was apart from his goal, I just thought he was excellent.
I raved about him last week, about the way he goes forward and stuff. And for me, he makes everything tick. He makes them. He's a right back, but plays like a right winger. And when you've got that many attacking players, and when you've got, look at the goals he scored this season. He scored at Hull. He scored on Saturday. He set up number of goals. I remember the Birmingham game when he had 3 assists. You know what I mean? He's a very talented player going forward, and he takes some stopping though.
Yep, Glick, superb again.
Again, yeah. He's just makes football look easy. Side makes you feel sick a little bit for me. It's not fair. Not fair.
He's just a special player. And young Harrison, who we mentioned, we've mentioned a lot this year, but last week we mentioned considerably, and he was fantastic as well.
Yeah, I think my brother's just come in the chat.
Is he?
My brother's
well.
My brother's joined us for the first time, I think.
Wow. It only took him 31 episodes. Well, welcome, Neil. It's good to have you on board. Make sure you send some questions in for your brother then for the end of the show. Like to get some good ones. I've just gone off my sheet. What was next? What was the final main game? Stoke
against Hull City.
5.
Game of the day. I've never seen a one-sided game,
Superb.
like this one, and
Oh,
we've been concerned, worried about Hull City since they sold obviously the best two players, and they picked up a couple of results, and scored some goals, but Saturday was just a horrendous day at the office from start to finish. Stoke started absolutely brilliantly well. Nick Powell scored with a header. I think George Long will be very disappointed with the goal at his near post. But Stoke just continued to attack. And the second goal from they got a penalty from Matthew Pennington's handball for absolutely no apparent reason. And you give poor side a lead in games, you've got no chance. But you give a Stoke City side who've got full of attacking players and full of team players who on Saturday were full of confidence, you've got no chance of coming back. And Stoke kept attacking. I thought Campbell was a threat throughout, and he was very direct, and he set Clucas up for his first goal of the afternoon, who didn't celebrate, by the way, against his former club. I was a little bit disappointed about that, because one of my bugbears is he's getting paid by Stoke City, so he should celebrate, because that could be a goal which keeps his current side in the Championship, and you know what I mean. So celebrate and enjoy scoring goals, because that's what you should be doing. Pennington continued to have a torrid afternoon and give another chance away, which Powell missed. He chipped it over the goalkeeper. Second half continued with Stoke City attacking, and Clucas scored again. This time with his head, didn't celebrate again. Another disappointment, but he obviously had a very good afternoon. And then Lopez pulled one back from a tidy finish for Hull, but then Powell scored the fifth, and it could have been more, and obviously we had the injury for Joe Allen, which we spoke about already, and which was obviously the dark point for Stoke. But an excellent game, an excellent result for Stoke, and something what was much needed for them, and what plunges Hull City into some absolute danger now for the rest of the season, because they've now got to pick themselves up. They've now got to win some important games. They play Middlesbrough at home in a couple of weeks, and I really worry about Hull, because I just can't see where they're going to get enough points to stay in this league. And I see Barnsley are probably more informed than they are. Wigan are more informed. Luton are more informed. Obviously, Stoke City give them a beating. Middlesbrough have won. Charlton, I'd still fancy ahead of them. And so for me, I think Hull City need to be very, very careful. Or they're going to be, once they get in the bottom three, I don't see them getting out of it.
No, I'm going to have a little mini rant about Hull. There's a reason I've got no sympathy for them whatsoever. Because you cannot sell your two best players, not just your two best players, your two strikers who score all your goals, create everything going forward. You cannot sell them, not replace them in the middle of the season. One thing, selling them in the summer. There's another thing, selling them in January, both of them. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's absolutely disrespectful to the club and the fans from the owner or whoever made the decision. I think it's really, really poor. And I think they'll probably go down because of it. Because I look at the teams further down, like your Barnsley have had a good run. I know last couple of games they've slipped up, but they can score goals. Yeah. That's the one thing Barnsley have got, is they could go and beat they could go and win 3 games, like 4-3 and 3-2. Luton keeping clean sheets, playing well, and Wigan unbeaten in 4 or 5, I think it is. Those 3 teams are all playing well. Middlesbrough doing well. Stoke City on fire. All the teams remotely close to Hull are doing pretty well. Hull City sold their 2 best players, 2 biggest attacking threats, and then I don't know what they expected to happen. I don't know whether the owner or chief exec or whatever just doesn't care, and they're looking to just get as much money in as possible from selling players and season tickets, and then they're going to sell up or something. I don't know what the plan is, but to me, it looks like I talked about last week and the week before, or it might be in the week before, about Cardiff's lack of planning this year and the way they've completely don't seem to have a plan in the transfer window and where they're going and what they're doing and the positions they need to fill. Hull seem to have had a plan and then just ripped it up halfway through the season. I don't
It's just
know
the
what they
ambition.
were doing.
It's the ambition
Well,
for
in
me,
January,
Si.
they were comfortably staying up.
I know. Well, like there's just absolutely zero ambition for me. They didn't need to be held to ransom. They knew they were going to lose Jared Bourne. They knew that. They should have already had a player signed, and then knowing they were going to get that money for him because they knew it was going to come. They knew, even if it was a championship player. You know what I mean? And you can't run a business the way that they've done it because now this is going to be, or potentially going to be, absolutely disastrous for the football club. If they go down into League One, they might not ever recover from this. You know what I mean? You just never know. And League One is probably a little bit more ruthless at the minute than the Championship is, and the pressure on Hull and the players to get back up into the Championship it'll be massive. And can those players handle the pressure? At the minute, from what I'm watching, they certainly couldn't handle the pressure on Saturday. So how are they going to handle?
And you can't blame the players, can you? Like it's not fair to them.
I can't blame the manager because he's obviously working. His hands are tied, and he's being told what he's working with and what he's not allowed to work with, and being able to sign or not being able to sign players to cover for the players that he's left. And to lose your best two players is just got to be disastrous. And how do you feel if you're a supporter side? How do you feel if you're
I wonder if they get their
season
ticket sales before the January window?
Yeah,
for next year.
You're a season ticket holder though, Si, and you pay all this money, you go home and away, and then all of a sudden, your two best players aren't there. Then why would you continue doing what you're doing? It's just a disastrous situation.
So Gaz says, why did they sell both? I can't honestly answer. I don't know. I don't understand it. Johnny Wish. So that's Paddy Bamford. I don't understand it. I think I would love to know if there's any Hull City fans who watch or listen, if you could tell me whether they did the ticket push for next year before the transfer window in January. I would love to know that, because if they did the push where they said, like, they kind of try and badger people into doing it before January, then that's even more annoying, to be honest.
Yeah.
Going back to the game, I had real trouble trying to pick a player to because I felt like there was a few players who were going to be in my ups. There was like Nick Powell, there was Klukas, there was who was the other one? There was another one who was absolutely outstanding, and I've blanked on his name. It'll come back to me in a minute. Nick Powell is really Campbell it was. Since Campbell's been come back and the manager's given him a bit of just a bit of faith in him, it seems to be. Michael O'Neill seems to really believe, he's telling Campbell, you're my guy. He's starting him and he's getting the best out of him, the best, seen this year. Nick Powell this season has been really good, but lately I think he's dragging Stoke to safety. Not single-handedly by any means, but he is the heartbeat of that team. Him and Klukas really are making a massive difference.
Well, so they've got in reserves as well. They've got Lee Gregory centre forward. They've got Sam Vauxhall, so he normally plays one of the two. Tom Ince, you've got Campbell, you've got Klukas. So they've now got to fill a big hole with Joe Allen. You know what I mean? But Michael O'Neill has implemented something. You know what I mean? The same as the Cowley brothers have at Huddersfield, and it's a long-term plan. The short-term plan is to keep them in this league, and if they can keep the better players and tweak things left, right, and centre of the club, I believe that they'll be a force to be reckoned with next season, because it's a big football club. It's massively underachieved this year. So next year will be so different, I think.
Yeah, you think so? The squad they've got, they should never be anywhere near the bottom. Nowhere near Premier League players. But you don't, you got to work for it. At the end of the day, it's not, it's not just because you've got these good players, Premier League players, doesn't mean that you automatically get to be, top of the league. You've got to work for it. And in the Championship, more than any other league, you've got to work for it. Okay, so we'll go to the other games now. Obviously, Friday night, Millwall played Nottingham Forest. I don't know what's going on with Forest. They really seem to have.
They were awful side at the start. They
fallen off a cliff.
start the game the way they started. They just couldn't handle the big centre forward. They just couldn't handle his presence. They couldn't handle the way that Jed Wallace was running at them. They're just like Matt Smith. He was just bullying people left, right, and centre. And I was a little bit disappointed that Matt Smith was given the hat trick in the end. Really, it's lovely for a centre forward to get a hat trick, but the second goal, Malumbi, he's a great individual volley, and it took a slight deflection, and as a centre forward you probably would claim it, but especially when you're getting your hat trick, you're gonna claim it all day long. But I thought Millwall absolutely dominated the game. I thought Gary Rowett's tactics was spot on. He went at Nottingham Forest, attacked Nottingham Forest. He didn't sit back and wanted to see how the game was going to go. He was trying to win the game, and I think Nottingham Forest just couldn't handle it. And by the time half time came, they changed the tactics a little bit in the second half, Millwall, and sold the game out. Forest didn't really create a lot. They didn't really do much to affect the game, and Millwall have given themselves an opportunity to get in the playoffs now. Side with that great result, and especially over the next couple of weeks. They've got some interesting fixtures coming up. They're at home to Derby next week. They're away to Barnsley, or home to Charlton, home to Swansea, away to Charlton, at home to Middlesbrough. So they've got some games for me. If we were looking at just looking at the Millwall fixtures here, right? He's their 9 games. 9 games. Home to Derby, away to Barnsley, home to Swansea, away to Charlton, home to Middlesbrough, away to Hull, home to Blackburn, away to QPR, home to Huddersfield. The possibility there, they could win. They could probably lose them all, but there's an opportunity they can pick up some real points there against some clubs and get in the playoffs. They're not playing anybody in the top 4. Everybody's outside the playoffs, or in the bottom half, or in the bottom 3. So they've got an opportunity there to pick up some real points, and if they can play half as well as they did on Friday night, they've got an opportunity. But if Nottingham Forest put any performances for the rest of the season like they did on Friday night, they won't even get in the playoffs, and they've got nobody to blame but themselves, because they had an opportunity a few weeks ago to be up there to have automatic promotion, but now they've given themselves a mountain to climb to probably even just stay in the playoffs, because with performances like that they're going to struggle.
You look at those games, they won even 50% of those games, they're probably going to be in the playoffs because of the teams they're playing.
Yeah.
Which is, it's unbelievable. Them and Derby, they're the teams which seem to be making the late run at the moment. But, Cardiff are banging it. Preston are struggling.
Yeah, they're struggling.
So there's opportunities for teams.
Dying off a little bit. Well, the side we've
Sheffield Wednesday just giving up on them. I don't know what
they've fallen. I think Gary Monk's decided that he doesn't want to be there anymore, and he's trying to get the sack intentionally, because how a football club
who's going to
fall from grace that much is just beyond me.
Who's going to get sacked first? Him, Lee Johnson, or Grant McCann? There's your 3 choices. Tell us in the live chat who gets sacked first: Lee Johnson of Bristol, Grant McCann of Hull, or Gary Monk of Sheffield Wednesday.
Who do I want to get sacked first? Different answer.
Different question. Different answer.
Oh God! I'll tell you what though, I'll have a little punt before anybody else has a little go. So I personally think Gary Monk's dead man walking at the minute. I think he's hanging on by a thread, and that football club, God, around Christmas time we're playoff contenders, if not more, going to Nottingham Forest, going to Leeds, picking up 6 points. And that's a huge fall from grace. Huge fall from grace. All 3.
If there was like an extra 3 games, I think they'd be in danger of going down.
Yeah,
that's how badly they're playing. They're just completely falling apart. The wheels have come off, as they say.
I agree, and I'm also I also think that Grant McCann. I think they feel sorry for him a little bit with obviously what
Yeah, of
what he's
course.
having to work with, So got to give him that.
Yeah. Next up was Bristol City 1, Fulham 1.
Yeah, the early game on Saturday, and it was. I thought Fulham were pretty good. I thought Harry Arter was strong in midfield. He had a couple of long range shots. I thought Naki Wells was very good. I thought he was a constant threat before he scored his goal, and I thought it was a very good goal. But not. I thought Fulham created some very good chances and should have been ahead early on in the game, and especially in the second half. And I thought Tom Kearney's goal was absolutely brilliant and thoroughly deserved, because if Fulham had left Ashton Gate with no points, I think they'll have been absolutely devastated with the way that the game went. Because I wasn't that impressed with Bristol City. I thought they had a couple of good chances, and I thought Fulham defended pretty well, but I thought Fulham dominated possession. They had all the best chances. I thought Mitrovic, they couldn't handle him. And Fulham for me deserved the point, but the point for me was a bad result side that, you know what I mean, especially with the way that obviously West Brom dropped a couple of points, which we're going to speak about later on, and that Leeds had a positive result. It just that gap just could have been closed a little bit, and probably should have been closed. And especially with the early game, you could have put pressure on the top two before the game started. But with the result, it probably took the pressure off the other two a little bit, and that's probably why Leeds dominated the game a little bit earlier than what I thought they would have. And West Brom obviously picked a positive result up after that as well. So
yeah, it was just while you were speaking there, I flicked up some of the people's opinions of who would get sacked out of those three managers. Rich Thomas said Gary Monk, Gaz Cubbins said Lee Johnson because he's a tosser. Richie came back and said actually all three. And Johnny Wish said, I hate Johnson, so I hope it's him, but I think Monk will be gone in the next few weeks. Yeah, Fulham dropped points big time.
Yeah,
missed opportunity without a doubt for them. And I think they'll be very disappointed in that. Right. Bristol City as well. I don't know really what's happened to them. They just gone to pieces a little bit. Themselves.
Underachieving side. The pressure on them
with the amount of money they spent.
Yeah, the pressure on them as well, size is massive because of the money they spent. You know, I mean, they're a big club. I think everyone thought it was going to be their season, and we spoke early during our pre-season show about that where we thought they would be, and I certainly thought they'd be guaranteed a playoff spot. But I think there's better teams competing, better teams playing well, creating more chances. I think it's going to be a long nine games for Bristol City, for Lee Johnson especially.
Yeah, indeed. Birmingham City 1, Reading 2.
Another goal from Hogan, which it's just the boy can't stop scoring. But he missed
an open goal.
Missed an open goal, yeah, to make it 2-0. And it's a fine margin side. We say this all the time about moments in games, and I thought Birmingham were fantastic first half. I thought Reading didn't really show up, but then second half, I thought Reading were excellent, and they just created loads of chances. And Mite just seems to score for fun, and he just seems to run the line really well. He holds the ball up, he gets in behind, he scores goals at vital times, and I thought all three goals from Reading were excellent. And I know we've had our jokes about Mr. Bowen taking over as manager, but he's had a really, really, really impressive first season, and
yeah,
you know what I mean. They're not too far away if they had a late push. You know that from the playoffs, they're only eight points off the playoffs, and you know what I mean. And going away to a Birmingham side, I fully expected Birmingham City to win that game, but I think second half it was. You know, I mean, Reading were going to do it, and Reading's next few fixtures: Stoke City at home, Derby away, Brentford at home, Luton away, Huddersfield at home, Charlton away, Middlesbrough at home. Same thing again. That they could have enough points and enough opportunities to progress on and try and finish a little bit higher and to push for that late place. But you know, what I mean, for me, I think Mark Bowen needs to be very, very proud of the job he's done this season, and since he's took over, and and just needs to push on and progress for next season and make sure his recruitment next year is right and proper.
Big ballistic Barry Phillips is in the house. You heard me mention him at the top of the show about this because we dropped an podcast with him at the start of the show.
Yeah.
He's I want to get him on for a regular show, and he said he will do it if he can do you.
Do it with me.
So that's what he's. Yeah.
Okay.
So he said that's what he's got. He said he's brushing his silver tongue, ready for the double up with the golden boot. Which is, he's referring to you. So next up we had Brentford 5-0. Let him have it. Come on, break it down.
To be honest, how good Brentford were. You know what I mean. You got to look at the positives. You know what I mean. There's been some other sides of the season who've taken absolute walloping off Brentford this season. Hull City took a walloping at home. Luton have been beaten 7 down there. You know what I mean. So Brentford deserve some credit the way they play and the way they create chances. But Sheffield Wednesday's defending, the way that they overplay, it just looks like a lack of effort. It looks so disorganised. It just looks an absolute shambles. And that's the concern for me. And I see Gary Monk's interview after the game and he hasn't got the answers to the questions that people are asking him. So if he's not got the answers to the questions that reporters are asking him, then God knows what that future holds for that football club, because supporters must be concerned, worried. You know what I mean? Fletcher looks a shadow of the player he was at the start of the season. You know what I mean? He was bagging goals for fun. He was leading the line. I've not seen Jordan Rhodes play a game since he scored a hat-trick at Nottingham Forest. You know what I mean? He seems to be out a lot. Yeah,
it's incredible, that isn't it?
Kadeem Harris hasn't played for months. It doesn't seem. He seems Josh Windass has come in and taken over a little bit. But you know what I mean? I remember the Cardiff game.
Kadeem was playing so well as well.
He was. It was a Friday night game when Kadeem was running rings around Cardiff City when he during that game, and he's had a cracking season. But now I don't know what it is. Obviously, they signed Connor Wickham. Doesn't really play. He's sat on the bench. It's a strange one that they're letting tons of goals in, and he's focused on the centre forwards and trying to bring in some goals. But it's both ends of the pitch that they're really struggling on. But look at the positives. I thought Brentford again were outstanding. Ollie Watkins, you know what I mean. He did everything but score. And some of the goals that
Watkins for England.
Some of the goals that the Brentford score were absolutely outstanding. Long range, the passing, the movement, the amount of passes, interchanging, the pace they've got. You know what I mean? If they hadn't have had that couple of bad weeks, they'd be hanging on to West Brom at the minute. You know what I mean? What they're 10 points behind. You know what I mean? So it's going to take them a massive push for them to get automatic, but they won't give up. And I wouldn't like to play Brentford in the playoffs because they've got a lot at the minute.
No way.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't fancy it. Ian David says, "Oh, sorry, mate."
No, go
on. Ian David says, "Mark Bowen, future Cardiff manager." Well, I would take him over Neil Harris. I can tell you that much.
It's a passion side for me as well. It's you know what I mean. People can relate to him. You know, it's because he's Welsh, and you know what I mean. He's had a good career both internationally and club wise. So you know what I mean. And the job he's done at Reading, he's done fab. So you know what I mean. You've got to give credit where credit's due, and he's sorted that football club out in the short space of time he's been there. So you know what I mean. He can only get there.
Why not?
He deserves plaudits, really.
Yeah. Johnny Wish says he feels sorry for the Sheffield Wednesday fans. It was schoolboy defending. Yeah,
I do.
Not wrong there, mate. I'm afraid.
I do. Yeah, it's an awful side because you don't want to see a side just giving up, and it just looked like they give up at times. And you know what I mean. You see one of the best players in the Championship, Barry Banham. You know what I mean. He's stuck in centre field. He's not happy. He looked very frustrated on Saturday afternoon at some of the shoddy defending. You know what I mean. And he deserves to be playing in the playoffs. Deserves to be playing in the top flight. And I can never see that happening at Sheffield Wednesday at the minute. They're miles off.
Which is incredible to say when you think of how they were playing 3 months ago.
Oh, they took lead to the cleaners. They beat Sheffield Wednesday.
2 different teams, isn't it?
You just can't believe it. You just can't believe what's the transformation in what they've done. And it's we haven't got the answers. The manager's not got the answers. So how can you pick the bones out of it? The manager can't.
No, it's true.
That's the worrying part.
Yeah, the thing which frustrates me, obviously I've got no horse in that race. I don't really care either way. But like the thing which bugs me is that some of those Sheffield Wednesday defenders look like they cannot be asked. They look like they are not concentrating. They're not trying. That's a problem for me because they should be. They're in the position they are in because their form has gone off a cliff. They haven't sold all their best players. They haven't got like a Bradley Dack injured or a Lee Tomlin injured. Like long term, they've had money to spend. They got a young manager. They were doing well. They were in with a shout of pushing for the playoffs. They've got to take a massive amount of responsibility for where they are. So then to turn around and be like looking like you can't be bothered, that's not on at all to me.
Well,
that's just my opinion, though.
I totally agree, Si, and I think the players are looking like they know they can't go up, they know they can't go down, so they're either
like booking holiday.
They're either looking for the summer or they're looking at what's happening in the end of the season, if that's staying or leaving or whatever, So it's worrying. It's worrying times.
Yeah, it's almost like they're already in holiday mode, like booking their holidays, isn't they? Like they can't go up, can't go down. Let's just do what we do. Johnny Wish says the fans should tell the players and all. I'm assuming he means like tell them that they're not trying and they're being not very good. Okay, so we did Charlton Middlesbrough, we did Leeds Huddersfield. Next up, Preston 1, QPR 3. Another team struggling for form.
Yeah, another game, Si. It was another game of two different halves again. That Preston went ahead through a penalty, another Johnson penalty, nicely put away. I didn't think much of QPR. I thought when they 1-0 down, they've always got a goal in them, but defensively they were all over the place in the first half. The manager brought a couple of players on at half time, and it just changed the game. And I thought Eze was absolutely outstanding, and he got his goal towards the end for the third goal with a brilliant curling finish on the break. I thought Cameron was a bit stupid for his 2 yellow cards in the space of about 6 or 7 minutes. The second one in particular, silly tackle, which you're already on a yellow. You don't make those kind of things. It's just ridiculous. But it must be exciting being a QPR fan side, that the amount of chances they create, the amount of goals that the fans see, both in their goal and in the opposition's goal, and you know what I mean, and it just shows that that they've come a long way in a short space of time, because you know what I mean, the 13th in the league on 50 points. I said, and I was very open when I said last year they were the worst team I've ever seen in the Championship, and they haven't brought in haven't brought in that many players. They haven't made a lot of signings, so you know what I mean. They're not out of the woods. They're 11 points clear, but then they're only 6 points off the playoffs. So it's such a cutthroat league at the minute. You know what I mean. They can have a couple of decent results and they could fly up the league. They have a couple of bad ones and they're back in a relegation fight. So they needed that on Saturday. But Preston for me is another concern and another worry that I can't see them sustaining this. They're on a bit of a downer, and to lose against a QPR side is a little bit concerning, really.
Yeah, it must be difficult for fans of QPR and Birmingham's and these teams who've got these exciting young players, academy players who've come through, or loan players who've come, from Premier League clubs who are doing the business. And I'm going to talk a bit more about one of the players for QPR in the 2-ups, 2-for-2s. So I won't spoil that, but it wasn't I'll tell you that much. So, guys, as we start to get towards the last couple of games now, if you want to, drop any questions you've got for Andy or myself, ready for that in the live chat comments, and tell us who impressed you from the Championship weekend, from any team, who's impressed you this season, who has not impressed you. Let us know in the live chat, and we will discuss. Okay, so we did Stoke, the mighty the mighty Swansea City drew
Mighty
0-0
Swans.
with West Brom, and it was very poor game.
Yeah, very dull. I thought West Brom started the better, had a couple of half chances, but the longer the game went on, I thought Swansea were the better side and had all the chances and finished off, and probably really unlucky. I wouldn't say unlucky because I missed some gilt-edged chances towards the end and some sitters to win, and a bad result for both sides for me. That they both needed to win. Swansea needed to win to get in the playoffs. Obviously, West Brom needed to win to continue their good form and chase that league title and promotion. And you know what I mean. A draw at the minute for both sides is just not good enough. It's not the result what both needed, and you could tell the frustration on the touchline, on the players' faces and stuff. And it's just it just needs the need to start winning games. Swansea, you know what I mean, finishing teams off. I thought Ayew leads the line really well, but they just missed too many chances for me, and that's obviously going to come back and bite them on the backside. And you look at the games that they've drawn, you know what I mean, even the Cardiff game where, you know what I mean, it was a nothing game. This one again, you know what I mean, that's 4 points dropped. I just check games off the top of my head.
Yeah. The Swans, they just looks pretty, but they just don't score enough goals.
It's a great way to watch
don't
football.
Take chances.
It's great to watch, but you know what I mean. It's
sometimes
it's not effective in the Championship sometimes, and you know what I mean when it doesn't pay off. You know what I mean. And the manager, to be fair, for the Cardiff game, he surprised me that he can mix it up a little bit, but I haven't seen enough of that all season. I haven't seen enough that he's mixed it up, and you know, man, I agree there that Big Slav did look a little bit annoyed and frustrated that his big players didn't turn up and they didn't create enough to win the game and didn't deserve to win the game. And you know, I mean, Swansea, the longer the game went, they should have won, but you can't afford to miss chances, and they're going to have to pick up some serious points to stop the Millwalls, the Cardiff, the Blackburns, the Derbys. So yes, it's not in their hands anymore.
No, it is not. And then there was one final game, which was Luton and Wigan, also 0-0.
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention this in one of my ups, but I thought Wigan dominated the game. Luton should have had a penalty, but you know what I mean. And I feel really sorry for Luton because they've been on the end of some awful decisions recently in big moments of games, and these moments can define seasons and keep football clubs up. And I do hope that it doesn't have an adverse effect on Luton Town Football Club, because if they go down by a point and it's these kind of decisions which cost them. But the longer the game went, again, Wigan were dominating the game and probably should have gone ahead and but just couldn't get that goal. Didn't have enough quality in the final third to win the game. And you know what I mean, if they are going to go down, it's because they don't score enough goals. But then, you know, I mean, they've got no one to blame but themselves, side, because goals change games, and they've had a window to fill in that gap. Both teams to get enough goals and to try and to get goal scorers in to keep them up. And you know what I mean, that I can't see both of them escaping and not going down that trapdoor. And I think one of them might stay up, but at the minute they're both right in it. They're both right stuck in it.
Yeah, they're both actually having a little bit of a mini renaissance, if you want to say that, I suppose. Like Wigan, I think have won the last, or unbeaten for the last 3 or 4. Luton have kept a couple of clean sheets, but unfortunately, they need more than that. They need wins. They need goals. Yeah. And you do wonder where the goals will come for both teams, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's cost money. You know what I mean? Obviously, Wigan lost Josh Windass. He goes to Sheffield Wednesday, and he's scored a couple of goals since he's been there. And it's a difficult one because you can't afford to lose. Hull City did it. You lose your best players, you've got to replace. If you don't replace, then you can't really feel sorry for your clubs. It's not. The business is about staying in the league. You can't just get rid of your players and just expect to stay up. It's not that easy, unfortunately.
No, indeed. Okay, so that's there was one more game on there because there was a game on Sunday. I apologise, Ed. You'll be furious that I missed out. It was Derby County, I think, wasn't it?
Blackburn.
What was the score? It was 3-0.
3-0 to Derby. Yeah, I mean, first, they are they're in form side. The amount of chances they create. I think Chris Martin's form is just been absolutely phenomenal for since when Rooney's took over. You know what I mean? He gets himself another couple of goals. He was on fire the week before when he had a hand in all 3 goals for the results at Sheffield Wednesday. So you know what I mean? Obviously they played Man United through the week as well. So you know what I mean? You could be excused to have a bad game on Saturday against a decent Blackburn side, but to go again and comfortably win and see the continuation of just the way they play. You know what I mean? Knight, I think he's an excellent player. Jason Knight, 19 years old, midfielder, stroke wide player, and to do this without Rooney as well. You know what I mean? On Saturday was obviously shows that they've got strength in depth and can cover when he is missing, because you know what I mean, he is a big player, but you know what I mean, just shows they've got other players to come in when he's not playing. But Blackburn, it's ever since we both put them to. I think you put them to get in the playoffs. I think I put them to get automatic promotion. They've blown up a little bit, but it's ever since. To be fair, you lose your best players to injury, and it's so difficult to replace them because the window's shut. And you know, I think it's going to be a little bit of a big ask for them to get anywhere near the playoffs at the minute, the way they're playing.
Yeah, I wonder whether now they're starting to miss Bradley Dack.
Yeah.
Whereas before, maybe they just were able to kind of go along on just kind of team spirit and you know, coming together because of the blow of losing him, being that he's such a big player for them, and then that's just starting to have take his toll, and they're just
Well,
we thought they would struggle when he was injured.
Yeah, Lewis Holtby as well.
Lewis Holtby, massive.
Well, you can't. You know, I mean, your two best midfielders. You know what I mean? It must be so disheartening for Tony Mowbray that you put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, in your midfield area, and try and bring all these very good players in, and then all of a sudden they're out for long-term injuries, and you're stuck in the middle of a window, and you can't replace.
Yeah, it's and as well. You know, Lewis Holtby's been outstanding all season. Bradley Dack's been one of the best players in the Championship for the last couple of years. So the game's done, and now it's time for 2 for 2. This is where myself and Andy pick 2 players who've had a nightmare or a blinder over the weekend, and we give our 2 ups and 2 downs. So let's go with down week first, mate. Who have you got for your first down?
I've gone for Matthew Pennington for Hull City, the centre half, who give a deliberate handball away for Stoke's second goal, and for me that was just the start of his afternoon. I thought he was diabolical for the rest of the game. He made some ridiculous errors, but you know, I mean, you can't. It's just inexcusable to handball it like straight off a corner. You know what I mean? Just you're letting your team down, you let your club down, you let your fans down. It was just ridiculous. So he's my first down. Yeah.
So, you know, me and you will try and avoid picking the same ones. However, I felt that Pennington was, how do I say this respectfully? He was so bad on Saturday that I decided to pick him as well.
It was disgusting.
It was disgusting. The handball, the back passes, which were like half-assed. Yeah. It was just terrible.
It was awful.
And I think he played the whole game as well, which was remarkable to me. Yeah, I would have had him off if I was the manager. So yeah, he gets it. Right down. Who you got for your next one, mate?
I've gone for a group of players. I've gone for Sheffield Wednesday's defence because I just thought they were absolutely just all over the place. And you know what I mean? I think if Pennington had been playing in defence for Sheffield Wednesday, he wouldn't have looked out of place because it was Pennington ×4 on Saturday afternoon for Sheffield Wednesday, because they were all over the place, and it's no wonder Barry Bannon was spraying his arms everywhere and so frustrated with his defenders and his goalkeeper, because they just didn't help themselves. They were half-assed display and just got exactly what they deserved, was nothing, and 5 goals against.
Yeah, they got everything they deserved, frankly. So my second down is Scott Hogan of Birmingham City, because he's been so good for him since he's come in, and the pressure's on him as a Villa boy, but missed an open goal from 3 yards, which cost him points.
Yeah.
And Birmingham have been in sensational form. Disappointing.
Yeah. Oh, great shout out.
Okay. Go on.
I just think it's a great shout outside, because goals change games, don't they? In big moments in games, you've got to make sure you put them in the back of the net. For him, it was an easy chance as well, because he's a very good footballer.
Yeah, it wasn't a difficult one, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so who have you got for your first up?
Luke Ayling. I've got it's the wonder goal for Leeds, the volley. I don't know if people watched Quest and the scene. Obviously, Mr. Neil Warnock was on there, and they showed Leeds United's training session on Friday, and they were doing a crossing and finishing drill, and Luke Ayling scored one of the best volleys I've ever seen in training on Friday, and celebrated like he'd scored a goal in the World Cup final, which is great. And then on Saturday he went out and scored a better goal. So it's no fluke, because this player's obviously very good, and he showed how good he is. So he gets my first up.
Yeah, it's like you say, no fluke. It's hard work and practice and training to perfect the technique, which volleying is such a hard technique to do. I went for, so I mentioned during when we were breaking down the Stoke game that I felt like Nick Powell, Klukas, and a couple of others could have had a good shout at being the up.
Yeah.
I went for Nick Powell in the end. He's just running the game for Stoke at the moment, every game.
Yeah.
He was particularly good on Saturday. His probing passes, his through balls, his crossing, the way he seems to have so much time on the ball. He scored 2 goals as well. He just moves the ball along all the time. He just keeps it moving. Sensational. And this last sort of 6 months, he's starting to show why Man United signed him all those years ago. He's had a nightmare couple of years since. And he's starting to show why they, what they saw in him.
I think it's just nice for someone like him, to find a home. You know what I mean? Because he's been starved a little bit. You know what I mean? He's been from club to club. He's been on loan. I know he went to Wigan last year, and you know what I mean. It's nice for him to play regular football week in, week out, and just show how good he is, because he's obviously a very good player. You know what I mean? He's technically very good, and now he's showing that he's confident and he's enjoying his football, and it always comes out, and it always looks even better, and just shows when someone just shows a bit of faith in you, that you can just start relaxing a little bit and enjoying your football. And 2 goals on Saturday, and especially now with Joe Allen being injured, he's probably going to get even more game time, regular. Maybe he might get a centre midfield spot and dominate games and get more time on the ball, because you know what I mean, he's going to have to now rise his game a little bit, and with obviously Joe Allen's injury, and show how good he is.
Indeed. So my second up. Sorry, I went off the page to.
Right. I'll give mine while you. Go on.
Go on.
Do you want mine? So my second up is Sluga from Luton Town, the goalkeeper. He made a save in injury time in the 0-0 draw, and to be fair, it kept them in it. It earned him a point, and that point could be huge coming into the season. So big moments in big games, and Sluga's had a couple of downs for me this season, about a couple of nightmares he's had, but I thought on Saturday was just right, and just kept deciding it.
So I went for Ryan Manning of QPR. Whilst AZ takes the credit, and Naki Wells, when he was there, take a lot of the credit for QPR's, and rightly so, QPR's young team and the goals they scored, the attacking play. Manning, I thought, was absolutely sensational. He scored a sensational goal. which was just unstoppable. And I thought he thought he was really good. He assists, probing passes, just everything which you want from a player. And QPR, if they could keep those players and add one or two just with a bit of experience in the middle of the park, I really think they could go on and push for playoffs next year because the young players are so good.
Great show. I totally agree. I was very critical of QPR, and you know what I mean. The players that they brought in, you know what I mean, and the confidence they've got, and the younger players, and it'd be interesting if they can keep hold of the Ezes, you know what I mean, the Samuels, you know what I mean. They need to keep all of these players because obviously you lost Naki Wells, you know what I mean. Obviously couldn't afford the transfer fee or whatever it was. You know what I mean, £5 million is a hell of a lot of money, but you know, when you've got your Jordan Hugels as well, you just need to keep your big players in big positions because you see what happened at Hull and other places. You lose your best players, and it's just a big struggle then.
Yeah, and you know, it's just a fact, isn't it? If you sell your best players, you're never going to really be able to fulfill your ambition or push on. Okay, so we're going to finish off now. We'll do the questions, and then, of course, we'll have soon to be award-winning 10-second segment that is Fake Geordie Bingo Lingo, where former Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker Andrew Campbell, former Premier League and Championship striker Andy Campbell teaches us
I don't even know any of the questions, so I will keep. What can I talk about? I will go. I'll talk about the fixtures next week. So obviously, some big games coming up the weekend. Middlesbrough in particular, obviously with a very good result. Obviously at the weekend, that then Charlton away, that Middlesbrough then next weekend go home to Swansea City, which is going to be a huge game. West Brom kick it off early kick-off against Birmingham, Blackburn, Bristol City, Huddersfield against Wigan, Hull City against Charlton, which is a huge result down the bottom. Will be a huge result down the bottom, and obviously be able to talk about some of those games next week. If anyone's got any questions that you want me to answer whilst I'm on here, I'm happy to do so. So Johnny, you said who's going up automatically from the Championship? For me, there's the Leeds train continues to can't be stopped for me, and the way that they're scoring goals, they've had the bad run, I believe, and for me, West Brom have got the best players in the Championship, so I think they'll be the two sides who go up automatically. I can't see anybody else catching those two. I think there'll be a couple of surprises in the playoffs. I would love to see Brentford go up automatically, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to stop the two at the top. I think for me, it's got to be Leeds United and West Brom to go up automatically without a doubt. I was just answering Johnny's question there, Si, what he put on the group chat.
Which one was that?
Who do I think is going up automatically out of the Championship? So I've gone Leeds and West Brom. I can't see anybody catching, to be fair. Can't see it.
I'd go, I think Leeds and Brentford. I think Brentford are going to make a late run for it.
Nice.
I apologise for that. My internet, I don't know what's going on with it today. It's tonight even. It's just rubbish. It just keeps cutting out like a few seconds. So I apologise to everyone. I'll make sure it's fixed properly for next week. It's the first time we've ever had technical issues as well. I hate it.
Yeah, rubbish.
Okay. So as I was saying, you can send questions, Instagram, Twitter, at ACEcast_nation, or Facebook.com/ACEcastNation, or you can email acenetworkcontact@gmail.com, and of course, the live chat. So Morgan Davis said, Cardiff season getting any better, in your opinion, Andy?
Sorry, say that one again?
Is Cardiff season getting any better?
It's just frustrating, side. There's just no consistency, no continuity, and 1 minute, I do think it's getting better. You know, I didn't expect the result on Saturday because I thought Barnsley would have probably bullied Cardiff a little bit, and and gone forward. So you've got to give credit where credit's due. But I think Saturday will probably tell how far Cardiff have come under Neil Harris, because it's the biggest test of the season, and if they can get a positive result, then they're still going to potentially put themselves with a chance of a playoff place. If they can win, then I think it's in their hands.
Yeah, I think it's just about better than what it was under Warnock at the start of the season. Not much in it though. Okay, I'll leave that one for a minute. Leslie Coates said, "Who do you think's going down?"
For me, Hull City. I think Hull are down for me. I can't see them turning enough to get out of it. Luton Town for me, I think have gone as well, and it pains me to say it, but at the minute, the way that they're playing and the way that things seem to be going for Charlton, I'm going to say Charlton, because Charlton I thought on Saturday were very poor, and you can't afford to be poor against the poor sides. And you know what I mean, it's the mini league you've got to try and win in around you, and at the minute they're not winning the games which they need to win. Forget your games against the top sides and trying to beat the best teams. You win the games in and around you, like Huddersfield have done and Stoke have done, and you fly out that league. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I think Hull City are down. I think Charlton are probably going to go down, and I think actually I got a feeling that Barnsley are going to do a bit of a last day savior, just one of those like dramatic things. I've just got a feeling, because the one thing that Barnsley have got over the other teams around them is they score a lot of goals.
Yeah, they do.
So they have the chance to at least kind of try and outscore their opponents, whereas Luton don't score much. No. Charlton rely heavily on Lyle Taylor. Hull City, words can't even put into practice what they're doing.
I'm saying that I haven't mentioned Wigan as well, because Wigan aren't out of it. Wigan are struggling. They don't score enough goals. They don't. But
the one thing with Wigan, mate, I think, is they've won 3 of the last 5 and they've drawn the other 2. Yeah. So they're in form at least, whereas the others not so much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're right, they don't score a great deal of goals, do they? But then Luton have won out their last 5 games have been win, loss, win, draw. And Barnsley's was win, and then they lost 2 on the bounce. So I mean, Luton, Barnsley, and Wigan are at least finding a bit of form, whereas Hull, Charlton, and Middlesbrough are kind of not. They've lost a bit more.
Middlesbrough are out of it, Si. Middlesbrough not out of it. They're not out of it yet. They've got a big. For me, it's next Saturday against Swansea, and then they go to Hull. You know what I mean? After that, I think 4 points from those 2 games will go a long way to keep them up, because Hull have to beat Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? They have to beat Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough beat Hull. You're on about 6 pointers. It is worth 6 points, because you can't never get those points back towards, and that's what you can't afford to do. You can't afford to lose to a rival. You know what I mean? We're on about Charlton lost to Middlesbrough there. You know what I mean? If Macaulay Bonner had scored that header later on, it would have gone. They would have been in the bottom 3, and it would have kept Middlesbrough there. And it's about staying out of that bottom 3. You know what I mean? By hook or by crook, however you can do it, stay out of that bottom 3.
Yeah, that's spot on, mate. Okay, so Peaches sent me a little message. She said, "Apologies, it's not as good as normal, but she threw it together as requested." So it's basically first thing that comes to your head. You're not supposed to think about it, and we'll go from there. So she said, "Best coach that you've played under, not manager."
God rest his soul. So when I was at Middlesbrough, in the Brian Robson era, we had John Pickering. And John was like my first team coach at Middlesbrough, and he was absolutely amazing, absolutely brilliant. So the likes of Janino Ravanelli, Boksic, Emerson, Gianluca Festa, all these kind of players, you know what I mean, were handled by John Pick, and he was just the best coach I've ever worked with.
Shout. And she says, in brackets, for this one, let's test Andy a little bit and put him on the spot. a player you can't believe made it as a professional.
I can't believe I made it as a professional. Probably myself, because I mean, I'm not being disrespectful, but
that's a cop out.
Go on. Let me have a think. All right. Well, ability wise, then Leo Fortune West, because Leo lacked ability, but what he lacked in ability, he made up with effort and enthusiasm. Because technically, he was probably horrific, but he had so many other attributes. But I'm on about technical ability for a footballer. So I'd probably say I was surprised that Leo was a player.
Leo, what a hero!
Yeah, he's legend.
Worst footballer to ever play Premier League football.
I'm probably going to upset a lot of people on here then, so I'm going to go ability wise, so technical ability. So I'm going to go Robbie Savage, so I'm going technical ability, but Robbie made up for that with heart, desire. You know what
Passion.
I mean? And he's a player you'd always want in your team, and always want. But technical ability, same thing again. You know what I mean? At that time, you know what I mean, that the likes of the midfielders, he was mixing it with Vieira, Roy Keane, Jamie Redknapp's. You know what I mean? These players who had more in the locker than he had, but he always seemed to come up trumps. But technical ability, he didn't really need it at the time because he had a little bit more than anybody else. So
bit nasty as well.
Yeah.
Best, this is a hard one. Like I'd be very impressed if you can reel this one off. Best player to play lower league football but not make it to the Premier League.
I was halfway going to say Jamie Vardy until he had the last bit.
That's a hard one, that, isn't it? On the spot.
Yeah. To play low league football and never make it to the top.
So while you think about that, Leslie Coates just said in the comments that John Stones will be gone this season from Man City because he's shocking. And he has been very, very poor this year. Yeah. Is he one of England's first choice centre backs?
I think he has to be because of who he's playing for. For me, he's got to be because the way he plays as well. He's comfortable on the ball, but he lets himself down defensively, and that's just the way it goes. I've got an answer for your side here. So I'm going for a lad. So if people might not know him anyway, because obviously that's probably the reason behind it. A lad called Mark Platt. He used to play for Sheffield Wednesday. It was in my younger age group in the youth team days. And he was like Ryan Giggs. He used to get the ball. He was amazing. He's the best player I'd seen as a young player, but never made it. You know what I mean? Never made it. It was under David Pleat when he was managing. He was the best thing I'd ever played against. Best player I'd ever come across. But never ever played in the first team and never played for a club once he got released by Sheffield Wednesday.
So you never made it as a professional at all?
No. No, but he was very good. Very, very good. Very good.
Worst England international ever?
Michael Ricketts.
Michael Ricketts. She's testing you today, wasn't she?
Michael Ricketts. I'll go with Michael Ricketts.
And then she says, for Sai as well, these two, best match you've ever been to in person? Wow, that's easy for me.
Best match I've ever been to in person. I'm going back Ayson Park days for Middlesbrough. So it was the last game ever at Ayson Park that Middlesbrough needed to win to get promotion. And we beat Luton Town away 2-1. John Hendry scored on both. And it was just an amazing day because obviously we got promoted as well. So it was just a last day at Ayson Park, which is emotional because obviously it was the era in the football I was brought up on. But to see them get promoted again and then go and play for them the following year at the Riverside was something else.
So Ian said Carlton Palmer. I'm assuming he means the worst England international, and that is a good shout. And I think Richie said Ched Evans. I think he means I don't know what he means actually. Worst player to never. No, Ched Evans played Premier League football.
Yeah, he did. He's played international football as well, hasn't he? So he's played at a good level, Ched.
I'm not sure which Richie, you'll have to explain that one, mate. So the best match I've been to in person, not necessarily in terms of quality of the match, but just in overall day enjoyment, setting, company. just the event and everything it'll be no surprise. The clip will play at the end of the show. I was watching the mighty Bluebirds get promoted in the Millennium Stadium, my hometown. Just watching Cardiff in the Millennium Stadium was special in itself. And then yourself scoring the winner in extra time against QPR, leaving Danny Shitu in the dust, lobbing the keeper, and then telling Gethin Jones to get his chin up. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I had the party of all parties outside the City Arms till about 5 a.m.
We had a nice party. No, well, that was a Sunday, wasn't it? I think the party stopped at the party had to stop on Wednesday morning.
Thursday.
I needed to drive back up north.
Oof, rough. And the last one she said is the best match you've watched on TV. I know this one too.
Best match I watched on TV was got to be FA Cup final, because I used to love my FA Cup. You know, from me rant last week. FA Cup final, so it was Coventry City 4, Tottenham Hotspur 3, and it was where Keith Houchin scored his diving header. And I got to meet Keith because he's North East, and he came into my school and did a bit of training with the kids. So I'll go that game because I thought Bennett on the right wing was outstanding, crossed it in for Keith Houchin's header. So yeah, I love that kind of era. You know, I mean, my kind of thing I used to watch with my dad.
So Ian David there says, me too, I was with you. And he sat next to me in the Millennium Stadium and watched Andy Campbell score the winner. The best match that I've watched on TV, again, not necessarily for quality, although it was pretty good, was the 1999 Champions League final. Just for drama and those last 3 minutes or whatever it is, where United scored 2 goals in in injury time. It's just a very unique situation. Like, just, I don't know, it's difficult to explain. Like, it was just incredible because they'd obviously failed, hadn't they, over the years building up to it. They'd never got quite over the line in Europe. And then to be 1-0 down from a deflected goal with going into the last couple of minutes. And then obviously Solskjaer and Sheringham, and the rest is history. But just the atmosphere in the pub watching that was something special. That really was. Okay, I think that's all. There, one more question. Gaz sent on Twitter earlier. He said, pick one side each that currently sit outside the playoffs and Europe and the relegation zones that will finish there, which will finish there in the Premier League and the Championship.
So I'm going to go Wolves in the Premier League because for me they've got the lot. You know what I mean? The biggest downfall for probably Wolves will be how long their Europa League quest goes, and could it affect their league form? Because obviously there might be a potential place in the Champions League. But I'll go Wolves. Wolves for me in the Premier League.
So you think Wolves will get Europa League spot?
I think they'll get a Champions League spot.
Okay. I think so. I think that Tottenham will actually. Yeah, I think Tottenham will get a Europa League spot when they're not there now. I think Mourinho will just defend his way to that. Right, and what about the relegation in the Premier League? One team that's not in there that you think could go down.
League. Well, Villa are getting walloped down to 4-0 right now, so I think they're more or less doomed. I don't want to upset any. Yeah,
don't say West Ham. Whatever you do, you've got too many viewers. West Ham fans.
Brighton. I go Brighton because they're flatter to deceive. They don't interest me. They've got nothing really. What? I'll go do
anything, do they?
No, it's just boring. I'll go Brighton. Go Brighton there.
Yeah, I'll go. I think I'm going to go Brighton too because like West Ham, Watford are fun to watch, and I think Southampton are probably safe. So it's
yeah.
Brighton, West Ham, Watford, and I think out of the three, actually, Brighton
think
offer
Watford
the
will,
least
yeah,
going forward, don't
I
they?
think Watford will get out of it. I think West Ham have got enough to get out of it, and yeah. So yeah, Brighton's not a bad
Okay,
shout.
and then the Championship. Who is outside the playoffs or the automatics that you think will get there?
I'm going Derby. I'm going Derby to get in the playoffs.
I'm gonna go. Do I stick with Blackburn Rovers, or
Yeah,
do I switch? I do think Derby will make the playoffs, but I also think that Cardiff City will make the playoffs, and I think Forest and Preston will drop out. And what about the relegation zone downstairs?
Hull City, 100%.
Oh yeah. Well,
100%.
they may as well be bottom of the league.
They're not in it.
Done.
They're not in it yet, but yeah, once they get in it, they will knock it out of it.
Yeah, I think
They will knock it
Hull,
out.
and I pray for you that Borough get those wins they need in the next couple of games, because I think after these two games, if they lose these two games, or they'd like draw one and lose one, I think they might be in trouble because of the games they've got coming up. They've got to beat Hull, and they've got to get something in the other one.
Yeah, huge games coming up.
Massive, and can't wait to talk about it all. That's all the questions. Just checking if anyone's sent in any for the last couple of minutes. Leslie Coates said, "What about Borough's last-minute goal in the UEFA Cup? Needed about 4 goals."
Oh yeah, amazing time. You know, I was going to go Middlesbrough's first Wembley appearance, which I was there for, but I was going to go the first goal that scored at Wembley, Ravanelli, the Millennium Stadium, where they won the first silverware. It's hard to pick one game when you know what I mean. I try to be a bit neutral instead of just picking
Cardiff and Borough.
Yeah, that's why I still fancy Cardiff to get in the playoffs, but I just thought Derby was a nice outsider.
Yeah, I do think Derby. Ed will be happy, won't he?
Yeah, I'll just keep him sweet, and as well, because when the snow starts falling in Derby as well, it can cause a problem for them. So
yeah, we don't. You know, we've got to keep them safe, innit?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the questions, guys, and you know this is what you've all been waiting for. This is it. This is the only reason people come. This is the only reason people watch and listen. Is this soon-to-be award-winning segment, the Fake Geordie Bingo Lingo, where Mr. Andy Campbell will teach us something about his northern culture. Take it away, my friend.
Right, I'm going somebody that I know really well, somebody I went to school with. So he's an actor. He's called Neil Granger. He's in the TV drama Heaven. And Neil Granger went to school with myself and Jonathan Woodgate at Nunthorpe School. And he's a huge Middlesbrough fan. Very successful actor. Very big on his social media. So it might not be a bad shout side to see if I can convince Neil in coming on the show and having a bit of a catch up and a bit of a chat. So yeah, so I'm gonna just a bit of history. Obviously went to school with Neil. Still speak to him now and again. So obviously nice to see him on TV and reminisce.
Indeed, good one. I like that one. And obviously, anyone who follows us on Twitter will have seen this last week. We've got a couple of guests lined up, particularly good for Wales fans, Cardiff City fans, Scotland fans. Yeah, popular with the wife, Mr. Super Kev. Maybe we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we're getting
Andy's
there.
got to seal the deal, but we're getting
there. Yeah, we're getting there.
They've replied and they've said,
"Yeah,
get it done."
Yeah, we're getting
so
there.
Yeah, if you want to know who we're talking about, but yeah, get it stuck in, guys. Thank you for joining us. As always, it's great fun. Andy's a bit hungover today, so he's a bit quieter than normal, but still fun interacting with you all, talking a bit of football. I thank you all for comments, shares, everything you've done, everything you do. I think we'll probably keep it at 7:30 as a starting time, because more people seem to come in at the start this week, which is good. We want to keep growing. We got the audio version of the show will be out tomorrow. There's also going to be the Danny Batten MMA show with former Cage Warriors champion Danny Batten talking the UFC from the weekend. And then Friday is former Merthyr councillor Adam Brown opens the lid on his time as an MP or a councillor up in the Merthyr in the Gurnos. Very interesting show with the man. What can I say? He doesn't hold back, and he talks a lot about brown envelopes and stuff. Interesting stuff. He's now a football writer over in Spain and a YouTuber, so check out his stuff. And yes, check out Andy on Twitter at AndyCampbell32. You can check out me at ACEcast_nation on Twitter and Facebook. Get involved, send us comments, tell us what you want us to talk about next week, whether it's championship based or for any other business. Is it international break next weekend?
Not next week, no, next
after.
week. Yeah, we must be the week after. Yeah, it's definitely not next week. It's next week, Cardiff.
Because there's one coming, isn't there?
Play. Yeah, worse luck. But next week's definitely not, because Cardiff plus one's on Sunday.
Indeed.
Cardiff
play Leeds.
Leeds, yeah.
And but when the international break comes, we'll still be doing a show. We'll just be talking football generally. We'll think of some subjects. There's always something to talk about. And join us, guys. Thank you, Andy. As always, my friend, it's a pleasure.
Tom, man, love it again. Yeah, love it. See you soon.
Love it. And guys, we'll see you on the morrow when I can click the link and press the video and work the computer. I'll sort my internet out for next week so that I don't keep disappearing. And Andy will make sure that he drinks extra on the Sunday so he's quieter. Because he's been rowdy.
It's Andy
Rowdy.
Campbell. It's in.
And see you later.